Personal pastime! I'm Nash, and I was just told that I am not loud enough when I talk into the microphones.
No. Not that you're not loud enough, that you're not close enough.
Oh, okay, yeah, let me fix that.
They can hear you. It just sounds like you're shouting from across the room.
Because that's how I talk to people, is by shouting at them from across the room. I'm giving all the listeners the experience of talking to me like they're really here, which is, just me shouting at them from across the room. It's not really not talking with me. It's me talking at them. Yeah, at you guys, at the listeners. And what's your name?
I'm Aaron.
That's right.
Still
Aaron. That's right. You didn't introduce yourself at the beginning. I gotcha. Let's see. Just jump right into some stuff. We're gonna be talking about more Japan stuff today, but before we get to that, got some notes about some things I wanted to say last episode, but I forgot because my note taking is eccentric, to say the least.
See, these notes seem a little more organized.
They are a bit more organized, but once again, I started out taking these notes kind of like when you make a sign. If you ever made a sign by hand, you start out with big bold letters, and you nailed it.
All of a sudden, out of space, gotta start crunching everything together at the end.
And at the very end, they get really small and start curving around the outside of the sign and back on itself. That's how my notes are always. So before we get to those, I saw a movie today. I'm not gonna say what movie it was. Just going to say that as of the recording of this episode, it's the pinnacle of cinema as we know it for our generation. But, so there's a packed movie theater. It's fucking people and their kids.
Is it Rampage?
Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson's movie based on a 1980s video game? No, but I almost went on a rampage because these people with their tiny children and the theater. If your kid is too young to even understand language, why'd you bring him to this movie? They're not going to get it.
Yeah, I've never understood. I mean, I understand why it happens, why people bring, babies to the theaters, because, not obviously because the baby wants to see the movie, because they want to go see the movie, and they couldn't, find a sitter.
Yeah, which I totally get.
And they just hope that the kid will stay quiet.
Here's the thing. There was, 4 kids within my arm's reach, which is dangerous for these kids, for one. And they all started crying. And none of these selfish parents removed the children from the auditorium, from the packed auditorium. You just have these selfish people and their wailing spawn that they refuse to drag out of there. And this one chick, her hair was braided with really heavy beads. So as she was crying, the beads were shaking and clattering as well. It's just like a symphony of.
Sounds like a terrible experience.
Yeah, it was awful. Yeah,
that's why I'm hoping to probably go see the movie you're talking about.
Yeah,
this weekend, but try to go to I don't know if it'd be better going to an early show. Or
I don't know. I went in the afternoon, like the early afternoon, because I was like, aha, everyone's gonna be at work and school, so I'm not gonna have to worry about any of this. And then I got to the theater, and the ticket attendant was like, it's the high school senior skip day. All the kids are here. And then it was bring your unemployed family to the movies day. And then it was everyone grab your babies and let them cry through the whole movie. It was awful. It's just awful. The film was great, though. 2 thumbs up to this movie that I'm not going to name. But you know what it is, people in the future.
It's, smashing records right now, too.
Yeah, smashing all the records. It's obliterating them. It was in some kind of a war that went on forever.
A endless tussle, if you will.
Yeah. It's extending forward and backward through time, nonstop, with no end. Yeah, non-terminating, like a conflict that lasted that long, like a conflict that always had and always will exist. It's like what this war is, and also me against these kids. I hate these kids, and I hate the people who have these kids. I hate them.
And again, the whole thing, it's I don't mind you bringing your kid to the theater, but if they start crying, take them out.
Yeah,
you're just ruining everything for everyone.
Yeah, take them out before I take them out. Those are your 2 choices. There's too many people in the world already. I'm not gonna feel bad when something happens to your child, so get your kid out of there. But, yeah, just jeez Louise. And then there was another kid, so I was surrounded by 4 wailing children on every cardinal direction, so it was coming at me in stereo. But then there was another one right next to me, And I was like, here we go. And this kid never made a sound.
Awesome.
Yeah, fantastic. Yeah, I don't have anything against like the concept of children in this context. Of course, I do have everything against the concept of children, but in this context, if you got a kid that's going to watch the movie like a person that wants to watch the movie, by all means, get a pile of that kid and bring him to the theater. We're square. But if you have a goblin, a braided hair goblin, get it out. Shoo. So that's my don't bring your kids to the movie rant. Especially if they are too young to understand language, or to understand the language of, like, stop crying. So it was, also there was just a lot of, outside of that, like the type of people that you might find at a theater that are old enough to know better. Like, I don't know, teenagers, people in their 20s, 30s, 40s, probably 50s, just like talking during the movie.
What theater did you go to?
I went to the closest one to where we are.
Okay.
So I don't want to name it, but you can, the thing you're imagining, all the things you're imagining is how it was.
Yeah.
So.
That's why I usually, even though it's not necessarily close to where I live anymore, I always go to like the same theater or whatever I usually see movies, because one, it's really nice that they upgrade it now because they have the like recliners and stuff, and also because there's not nearly as many seats in the theater, and you aren't all together.
Right.
Like basically they have like two recliners like joined, and then there's like a space. So at worst, you have one person right next to you.
That's pushing it, man.
And yeah, because I'm like the same way. Like when I go to watch a movie, I want to watch the movie. I don't want any interruptions.
Yeah.
I don't want other people talking. I don't want children screaming.
Yeah.
And that seems to alleviate it a bit there.
Nice. Yeah. See, the problem is that in order to ascend to the higher class of theater that I would need to go to escape the riffraff that frequents the theaters that I go to, I can't afford it. Like, I'm one of the riffraff. I just happen to be very well behaved when I'm in the theater. Except I did see another movie a couple days ago at the IMAX. I didn't pay for it, so that's how I wound up there.
It's like the one downtown?
Yeah, like the real nice one.
The real IMAX?
The
fake IMAX?
The real IMAX with, like, paid parking and everything. Like, very out of my normal circle. But someone else paid for it, so I went, and this movie was, like, 3 hours long, and I have a child's bladder. But I managed to hold it the whole time. And then on the way out, like, two guys were, like, getting ready to get in a fight because apparently some other guy brought their kid to this movie, and then the kid was kicking the back of this other guy's seat the whole time. So then in the middle of the movie, the guy like spun around and yelled at the kid. And then at the end of the movie, the other guy was like, well, how do you that's unacceptable. You don't talk to someone else's child like that. Like, what do you think you're doing?
I shouldn't have to if
Yeah,
that person's child had a decent parent.
Exactly. That's what the guy said. He's like, if you were doing your fucking job as a parent, I wouldn't have to be yelling at your kid. Like, I paid $20 for this seat and parking. Like, I shouldn't have to put up with this. And I was like, yeah. And everyone was like, oh, geez, we better look away from this thing going on. And I was like, yeah, do it. Do it. So I was like really into it, but my bladder was getting ready to bust. So I was like, oh, I have to go to the bathroom. And for one of the first times and only times in my life, there was a huge queue for the gentleman's toilet. Like, it was so long. The line was long and the wait was long. And I got close enough. I was with a buddy of mine. We got close enough that we could like see the entrance to the toilet. And there was this dude at the urinal standing there for so long, and my organs felt like they were rupturing, and I was not in the mood. And then he still was standing there, and I said something really subtle, like, what is this guy doing with his penis that's taking so long? Have I been pissing wrong my entire life? If I get up there and I see this guy texting, I'm going to slam his teeth into the porcelain. And the guy in front of me was like, just like, everyone out of my fucking way. And then my buddy was like, hey, man, I'll give you $1 if you let me go in front of you. And I was like, no, you're a much larger person than I am. Ergo, you probably have a larger bladder. So, no. But we can tag team this toilet if you want, but you can't go in front of me. And he was like, no, that's all right. Like, all right, well, your hang-ups are on you, but I'm going to the bathroom right now. So, whatever. And I never did figure out what the hell was taking that guy so long, because I was watching him with my own eyeballs,
Like
standing over the urinal for a very long time.
Like I've had situations where I've been at work.
Yeah.
And
you hold it so long that like your pee gets stuck sideways. Like,
no, I've never had any problems. But there's been times where I've been in the bathroom and it's like you said, somebody goes up to the urinal and just like, it's usually pretty quiet in there.
Yeah.
So it's like you don't hear anything. And they just stand there for like 5 minutes.
Yeah, you're like, what's going on? I mean, I get it, because like when I first got up to the toilet and I started peeing, like it was a very forced, not natural pee because I'd held it for so long and didn't want to come out. So I get that, but this guy was there for a really long time. Like, go to the doctor or something. Like, get out of there.
Like if it takes you like 2 to 3 minutes to like start peeing,
yeah,
there's probably something going on there.
Something's going on for sure. But anyway, yeah. So we got a note. We got to post a note from the last time we recorded, and I forgot all about this, so I'm super excited. This is courtesy of Aaron. The post-it note reads, "Royal Irish nipples." What is this post-it note about?
So it was a thing I read on Reddit. In the subreddit called Today I Learned. And usually just like people post just weird, interesting things.
Right.
A lot of times it's just like random shit from Wikipedia. And that's what this was.
Did you fact check this? Do we know if this is real?
I mean, it seems to be, yes.
Okay.
Like it's all like cited and like I looked at the sources and like they seem to be like scholarly sources.
Okay, fair enough. RoyalIrishNipples.org.
Well, it was like a Wikipedia article.
Okay.
So they had like all the like
the
sources, citations on there, and I looked at the citations to be sure it wasn't just like some dude's blog. But no, so apparently back in like the like 16th century in Ireland, or maybe even further back, 14th, 15th century, long time ago, it apparently was fairly common for the king to require his the nobles who served him to suck his nipples,
like as a tribute, or
pretty much,
or was it just like a sign of loyalty?
It was basically like as a sign of submission, kind of thing.
Okay, sure.
Showing that he has like power over you. But
I should say so.
The other thing, going hand in hand with that, was that then when a king may have been, conquered through like a rival, they would cut off his nipples.
The source of his royal powers.
Basically, yeah. So that basically he couldn't be king again. Because apparently a man without nipples can't be king.
None will argue with you.
Yeah, I just found that to be a really weird and interesting tidbit.
Titbit.
Yeah, titbit. Very good.
Yeah. Oh man, I'm so happy about
that.
But
yeah, I was telling you guys about that after we finished recording, and you were like, "Oh, write that down. We need to talk about that."
The world needs to know, because I'd never heard about this. I'm a big fan of anthropological oddities like that. So, 2 nipples out for that. That's what I. Fantastic. All right, what else is on the list? Here's some quick things from last week's episode I forgot to get to. When I was escaping South America, I went to the Nazca Lines, which, if you don't know what they are in the Nazca Desert. It's a big desert, and these lines are lines in the desert. So they're just like someone pushed a bunch of sand and rocks around to make big lines that you can't really see from the ground. But when you go up super high, they make giant shapes. So they're gigantic petroglyphs. There's like an ant and a bird, a few other things. They're like the desert version of crop circles, which is really crazy because no one knows why they're there. Obviously, aliens is the number one theory, or
that's just
super
simple science.
Yeah, Occam's razor. The simplest explanation is usually the most accurate. So aliens for almost everything, or super technology. So the ancient, probably Incans, were flying around in their Da Vinci copters with their stupid counter-rotating propellers and
with their, laser etching.
Yeah. Just etching into the desert. Yeah, no one knows why they're there. You can't really see them from the ground, but the thing that really struck me was I'd seen several documentaries on these, and they always show you the aerial photos, and you're thinking, wow, what amazing things. And you see them in person, and they're really underwhelming. Like, they're just... It's just piles of sand, which is super fascinating because it's both extremely underwhelming and disappointing, but all the more fascinating. So you're like, man, these have been here for likely hundreds or maybe thousands of years. Just sand that doesn't move, dirt. Why are these giant shapes here? Like, who's walking around drawing these giant shapes? What for?
Well, like, if nothing else, like it's the having that they had the perspective of there could be something super high up
to see it. Yeah. So,
and that they could proportionalize things from the ground.
Yeah.
To make it so that if you're up, 10,000 feet up in the air, you can see this thing.
I would say that conceptually it might be more interesting or amazing than the pyramids, just because a pyramid is a very it's easy to deduce that that's a very stable shape. Mm-hmm. Like, many different cultures were like, we're just going to build a thing that's four-sided that goes up to a point because it's super stable. But, like, it's more complicated maybe to work out how to draw an accurate gigantic drawing that you can't really check unless you're flying around in your big stupid Da Vinci copter. So I thought that was pretty amazing. I ran into a guy when I was in South America who wrote a book. So I was, how like-minded people kind of cross paths. I was at this bus station waiting to cross into Peru, and started talking to this older-looking guy who had a bag with a case hanging off the back. And I was like, hey, do you know if this is the bus to Peru? And he was like, man, I hope so, because that's where I'm going. I was like, hey, what do you got in there? Are those arrows? Because it looked like an arrow case. And he's like, no, it's fishing rod parts. I was like, oh, cool. That makes way more sense than arrows. But still, like, we were in the middle of the driest desert in the world, so why does he have fishing rod parts? But it turns out this dude was really cool, and we talked for a few days. We hung out, traveling around together. He used to work for the Environmental Protection Agency as the world's leading authority on water purification. He invented some new algorithm during his time there that no one had ever done before, and like revolutionized water treatment, and then became the world's leading authority on this method. And then after being there for a while, he retired and became a fly fishing guide in Patagonia, started his own fly fishing adventure company, and did that for like 13 years. Then retired again, and now he's 71 and just traveling around, and he's getting ready. He said his plan was to buy this old Russian motorcycle with a sidecar and then just load it up with supplies and then do the Silk Road, like from Russia to China or whatever, just drive around. And I was like, yeah,
like that'd be pretty awesome.
Yeah, I was like, this old man is my kind of old man. So yeah, we were just swapping stories and stuff. And he wrote a book, and I told him I'd buy it, and I told him I'd plug it, and it's called Drink from the Bucket. Stories from a Feral Life or something like that. So it's just some of his stories of traveling around. He's got like a wife and kids, but his kids are like, I don't know, 50 or whatever. Like he's 70 something, so his kids are old as well. Yeah, his kids are old, you know. But yeah, it's just some of his stories, and he was telling me just like different stories. Like he wound up visiting some tribe in Tanzania, and something happened, and then he was like offered a bride by this tribal chief as like a custom, and yeah, it's just cool stuff. So there you go, Drink from the Bucket. I just ordered it the other day from Amazon. It's like $5. So give it a look if that's your thing. Oh yeah, and then when I was leaving Peru, so this is the final thing from last week that I forgot to mention. I was at this bus station again, and you have like street vendors in places, countries, they have like a little stall, like you might see like in a downtown. You've got your like newspaper kiosk that sells garbage snacks. You have like a bag of M&Ms and a bag of peanuts, and like some old popcorn, and then some magazines, and like a yo-yo or something. Just those weird folding kiosks that like fold up into themselves. Yeah. And then the people like live inside of those. So this was one of those guys, and he was at the train station, and he was very clearly like super poor running one of these things. And I'm waiting for this bus, and he comes up to me, doesn't really speak any English. I don't know what language he was speaking. It wasn't Spanish, but maybe a like a native language from the area, and he was speaking to me, but his daughter, I'm guessing, was there and kind of spoke English, and I was like, what's going on? And she was like, oh, he really likes your bracelet, this bracelet here that I got in the Outback during my wilderness leadership survival training, and I was like, oh yeah, thanks, and she was like, oh, he wants to know where you got it, and I was like, oh, it's kind of like, it's difficult to explain, you can't really get one. And he was like, oh, and she was like, oh, he wants to try it on. And I was like, sure, why not? I got 5 minutes. Like, he can try it on. So I took it off, and he put it on his wrist, and then...
He just walked away.
And that was it. Yeah,
he
he like, wanted to have it. And I was like, hey, you can't have it. I was just being nice. My bad. I forgot that I don't like to do that, because it's always some weird stuff that happens afterwards. And she was like, oh, he wants to buy it from you. He'll offer you... It's something stupid, like 2 bags of popcorn or whatever. And I was like, no, it's not for sale. Like 4 bags of popcorn. And I was like, no, it's not for sale. And so I just kind of like forcefully took it off his wrist. I like manually took it off and then put it back on. I was like, yeah, it's not for sale. And he was like, I will give you $5. And I was just like, man, this poor guy, like, that's probably
it's probably a shit ton of money to him.
Probably months worth of money to this guy, but like he could add a 0 onto that and it wouldn't even be close to the worth of this. And so I was just like, yeah, no thanks. So I walked away, and he like tracked me down 10 minutes later and he was like, $10. I'm like, that's like, for a guy living under a popcorn stand, like that's a lot of money in I think I was in Peru. But I was just like, no, it's really not for sale. And yeah, he couldn't go any higher. But once again, if he added a 0 to that, like, it's weird to think that he wanted this bracelet and his bargaining chip was his like final life-ending offer was $10. And it's like, man, if he added a 0 on that, it wouldn't be enough. And to think that this guy's probably never going to see enough money in his whole life to get the bracelet that's on my wrist. It doesn't even look that special. But it's just like, man, you could just go make one of these. Like,
go find like a leather worker.
Yeah, like you have leather workers here. I see them all the time. Just describe this to them, and they can recreate this for you. It's very easy. But yeah, so that was it. I just thought that was a pretty crazy thing. So today, in honor of me getting ready to go back to Japan, with a buddy of mine, I was talking about that. I think last episode, the guy that we have the Rick and Morty dynamic, going back to Japan. I figured we could talk about Japan some more, because we haven't talked about Japan in a while. It's kind of the place that I go back to the most out of all the places that I frequent, and it's probably the place I've spent the most time.
So don't you like typically live there about half the year?
Yeah, about half the year I do hang out there. Oh, you know what? There's a few other things. Before we get there, stay tuned, everyone. We're going to talk about Japan today, but I've got some recent developments in the world of science. Have you heard about Denisovans?
No.
So apparently there is a Homo sapien, we'll call it precursor, called the Denisovans, that are separate from the Neanderthals, but existed at the same time. So we now have a third group. We've got Homo sapiens, Neanderthals, and the Denisovans. The Denisovans are so new. They've only been, they were just found 10 years ago. They don't even have a scientific classification yet, but they are a distinct group from the Neanderthals. In fact, according to this study, ancient human groups mated with this group at least twice. And it looks like they actually mated with this group more than the Neanderthals. But they're pretty sure that based on the bones and remains found in Serbia's Altai Mountains, that they're definitely a different group from Homo sapiens. They're considering Homo Altai or Homo SSP, Denisova. So there you go. So it looks like, just a quick rundown, Denisovans were a branch of humans having diverged from Neanderthals about 200,000 years ago. Modern humans are... Oh, I'm sorry. Study suggests that anatomically modern humans interbred with Denisovans very soon after leaving Africa, somewhere between 200,000 and 50,000 years ago. The interbreeding took place over 2 pulses, so it wasn't just 1 or 2 people banging 1 or 2 other people. It was a mass interbreeding a couple of times, and that the people on Earth who have the most genes related to them are in Oceania and Southeast Asia, so like in Papua New Guinea, around there, they have the most Denisovan DNA. So I thought that was interesting.
That is interesting.
What do you think about that? I did not know there was a third group floating around.
I did not either.
Because the plot thickens, because they're like, well, at first it was like, well, modern Homo sapiens evolved from the Neanderthals, and that's why they're extinct, because they evolved from there. And then it was like, well, you know what? They actually coexisted, and no one knows what happened to them. And now it's like, well, now there's a third group out there that also no one knows what happened to. It's like, what is it? What's next? Like another group?
Another group somewhere else.
you just go kicking around. You're like, you know what? The Neanderthals are still around. They've just been living in the underground in Malaysia. They're just underground people now. Like it's gonna be something crazy. And speaking of crazy, scientists think that meteors might have been what brought water to Earth. Gigantic
frozen meteors.
Yeah, gigantic meteors with frozen water and pressurized water brought all the water to Earth.
I know they talked about
maybe
the theory of not necessarily meteors, but comets.
Yeah.
Since comets typically have a lot of ice.
Yeah.
Everyone
kind of dismissed that because there's so much water on the planet.
Right.
And scientists recently postulated that maybe a giant meteor full of water brought all the water here, and they ran a simulation that checked out. So obviously no one knows, and aren't going to know for a while, probably, if ever. But that's a maybe, strong maybe. The numbers are good. And then most interesting of all to me is recently scientists used a satellite laser beam infrared X-ray type thing to scan a large area of the Guatemalan rainforest simultaneously-ish. They found 60,000... Oh, it was 800 square miles. They scanned 800 square miles. They found 60,000 undiscovered ancient Mayan buildings, including a megalopolis, potentially the seat of the entire Mayan civilization, just chilling in the jungle.
In the middle of the rainforest.
No one had found it yet, just waiting for someone to go and trip over it. And every time someone finds something like this, they're like, well, that's it. We did it. We found everything. That is the last thing ever.
Nothing left.
Nothing left. Nailed it. You can go home, James Cameron. It's done. Everything's done. But, 60,000 structures.
In only 800 square miles.
In only 800 square miles. That's crazy.
Yeah.
And a megalopolis. Like, not just like, we found a bunch of statues. We found a whole...
A gigantic fucking city.
Yeah. That's probably the most scientific way to put it. Like, a gigantic fucking city in the middle of the Guatemalan jungle. Like, that's crazy. Because you know what that means? To me, there's still more shit out there.
Oh, yeah.
There's always more shit out there. For example, all you gotta do is look to myths that then become legend. And you don't even have to go that far back. Let's go back to World War II, back to last year, when everyone was like, well, there's the old legend that the Nazis took off all over the world and established crazy outposts and places where...
The Antarctic.
It was Arctic. It was up north, yeah. The Arctic. Yeah, they say the Nazis built a secret Arctic base way far north for, science and research and hiding, but, no one's ever found it. Of course there's not a secret Nazi base in the North Pole. That would be crazy. And then they were like, oh, we found it. Here it is. It's exactly like it was described. It's here. Nailed it. So the other secret Nazi amazing base thing, supposedly a group of secret Nazi research crazy people took off into the South American rainforest, probably in Brazil or Argentina, and everyone was like, it's crazy. They're not. Why?
Well, I mean, it's already been.
Yeah, they definitely moved down there. Like it's already that's not even.
It's been documented.
That's not even argued that they're down there. So if they're gonna make it all the way that far, they definitely set up a secret base. That's what they do. Like, they're not going to migrate all the way down there and be like, well, now that we're here, let's just all become postmen and live a nice, relaxing life in South America. No, they're going to set up a secret, crazy Nazi base in the jungle or underground or in a big rotating building.
Continue our work.
That's right. For the Führer. Yeah, so craziness. I want to be the one to find secret Nazi jungle base.
Get some of that Nazi gold.
The rainforest base. Yeah, or even better, like, Nazi gold is good and all, but if you want Nazi gold, all you got to do is go to Switzerland.
Oh, yeah.
Tons of it. Yeah. Debatably the majority of it. Spoiler alert, Switzerland's not neutral and never has been.
Yeah.
But, yeah, I want, like, secret Nazi documents or, like, research or artifacts that aren't, just bars of gold that they stole from minorities. But, hey, I'd take that, too. And I would give most of it back. Not all of it, though. Because, you need something for your efforts. You need something for your efforts. Like, you do the thirdsies. You get the third to the museum, a third to private buyers, and a third for your own souvenir purposes. So I think that's fair.
That sounds fair.
That sounds fair. It belongs in a museum, and also I should, get paid for finding.
I took a lot of work.
That's right,
and my own expense.
Just so we're clear, anyone who's doing this is probably breaking a lot of laws, and all that's overlooked in the future. But in the present tense, you need a real good lawyer to get you out of the shit that it takes to find amazing scientific discoveries. So. Get one of those things on retainer with my big bars of Nazi gold. So, yeah. So, I thought that was pretty cool. 60,000 Mayan structures.
Yeah, that's crazy. Interesting. Another kind of fun fact I learned today.
This one's fresh.
Yeah.
Go on.
So, the camel originated in North America.
Did you know that Saudi Arabia and Arabia in general gets the bulk of its camels from Australia?
I did not.
Yeah, now you do.
But yeah, camels as a species originated in North America and then migrated across the Bering Strait.
Okay.
And into
South
America.
This was quite a while ago.
Yeah, several million years ago.
Sure, okay.
And then like 3 to 4 million years ago, migrated into South America, and then that evolved into llamas and alpacas.
Okay. Yeah, that makes sense.
But yeah, so camels used to be indigenous to North America.
Huh. Wait, what was the environment like back then? Like arid?
The parts of North America were like more like in the
were they like living in the Yukon, like in
like Canada,
yeah,
like the northern North America, was more arid.
Okay,
and
they all just headed west.
Yeah, they basically went west across the Bering Strait.
Yeah,
across
the Aleutian Archipelago. Yeah, across the Aleutian Islands and then into Russia.
Yeah,
and then
it just kept going.
Wow. Yeah, kept going west and then south, and then you get to Arabia. So neat. I had never heard that. You just learned that today, huh?
Yeah,
that's pretty cool. Was there like an illustration of what the common ancestor looked like?
They looked fairly similar to like camels look now.
How many humps did they have?
The original camels just had one.
Okay.
But they were shaggier.
Makes sense. So I'm imagining like a long-necked bison,
kind of
with a hump, like a big bag of water,
but with really long legs.
I love imagining goofy ancient animals. It's just like, yep.
So yeah, if you take a bison, take away the horns,
right?
Make the legs like 6 times longer.
All right, giraffe legs, bison hair,
and then like elongate the neck a whole bunch.
Floppy camel hump. Stupid camel face. Got it. Let's give it a goat head for good measure. It's got a goat head but no horns.
Yeah.
Did camels use that?
Doesn't have the creepy goat eyes though.
Nah, that's too bad. It's one of the best parts of the goat.
But I don't know. Any listeners, if you ever know what I'm talking about, just Google goat eye.
Yeah.
And be amazed.
Yeah, goat eyes. There's a reason that they were worshipped and feared and pagan
because they have
religions.
very fucking weird looking eyes.
Yeah, they're weird. You know what? Camels are mammals, right?
Yeah.
Ergo, they make milk.
Mm-hmm.
But if they're so dehydrated all the time, you think it's more like a string cheese that comes out of there, or like a curdled yogurty.
It's probably very thick.
Yeah.
Very, it's kind of like yogurt, almost like warm. Yogurt.
Yeah, that Mongolian crotch milk. Like, I would eat camel ice cream or camel yogurt. There's no ice cream I would not eat.
Yeah, in ice cream form, I would try it.
I would try it in milk form. Give me a bowl of
it's just the
cereal.
thing. Like if it's cold, I would be more inclined.
No, it's gotta
to
be
try it,
it's gotta be room
as
temperature.
opposed to just like room temperature, and room temperature being like it's like 110.
That's right.
So-
Fahrenheit, just so we're clear. All right. Any other interesting factoids before we get back to Japan?
I think that's all I had.
Okay. All right. What are you smiling about? Sound guy Ben is grinning like
He's got a
like
secret.
a serial killer. Yeah.
No,
thought you had
it's
something-
out. You've got to cut that part out.
I thought you had something interesting to say.
Now everyone knows.
Like, why are you smiling? Sometimes I do this. No reason. Isn't this what people do when they're blending in? I guess. Not like that. Oh, man. All right, so talking about Japan, some time ago, our first episode, in fact, our first 2 episodes, or 3 episodes, they all kind of got like spliced together.
I think the very first one we'd up having to do again because the sound, we tried recording it in my apartment.
Yeah.
And didn't really have a good
Wasn't
setup, so
having
the
it.
microphones were just way too far away from us.
Yeah, just
and
wasn't
everything was
happening.
just like echoing off the walls, and it sounded like shit.
Coming to you live from a big cave.
Yeah. So yeah, we ended up having to re-record all that.
Yeah. But the story that I told was climbing Mount Fuji. So if you just need a quick refresher.
And was that your first time climbing Mount Fuji?
That was the first time, so that's a spoiler alert for this story. But yes, the first time I climbed Mount Fuji was what that story was about.
Sorry, because I knew you did it more than once.
Yeah, so that's actually what this story is. This story is the sequel. So to get you all caught up, last time on the Chronicles of Nash, I gotta say it like the Dragon Ball announcer. Previously on the Chronicles of Nash. So I was living in Japan, going to school. It was Golden Week. I had a week off. I wanted to go on a training mission. Thought I'd go climb Mount Fuji. Didn't do any research. Wanted to make sure I climbed the whole thing instead of taking a bus halfway up like a chump. So I just got on a train, got off as soon as I could see the mountain, walked for a while. Just because you can see a mountain does not mean you are almost there. Wound up in the murder woods, which I didn't realize was a thing at the time. Wound up tripping balls for reasons that I thought were exhaustion. Saw a bunch of ghosts, a giant demon. It was like an 8-foot tall dude with the head of a deer and eyes made of fire. It was a big situation. Wound up getting out of there. Got my staff at the 5th station, climbed up to the top to get the brand. The guy denied me the brand because it was like the day before climbing season started and he hadn't turned the furnace on yet. So I was defeated, miserable, bloody eyes, just super beat up. But I did it. I conquered it. Fought some demons, whatever. Made it. Swore I'd never go back to this miserable, miserable mountain because I'd won. And so here we are.
Well, then also you left out a key thing there. You did it all barefoot.
Oh no, I didn't. I was wearing shoes.
Oh, you were wearing shoes?
I was
Okay,
wearing
so
shoes.
this is
This
the
time,
barefoot
this is the barefoot
Okay.
one though. Yeah, this is the barefoot one though. So this is where I'd never go back. I didn't know anything about any of those ghosts or anything because this is just nonsense. I'm not a superstitious guy, I'm just an open-minded guy. But whatever. Then I get back into town and they're like, how'd you get through the murder woods? And I was like, what are you talking about? And then they told me that these woods, the suicide forest, Aokigahara, is where everyone goes to kill themselves and murder everyone else and has been for hundreds of years. And it's full of dead bodies and demons and ghosts and all kinds of things. And they asked me if I saw very specific things that happened to be the things that I saw, which if I had known that before I went, I would have thought it was psychosomatic, a self-fulfilling prophecy. I was expecting to see these things, but it was weird that they knew what I saw and I didn't describe it to them yet. It's just a weird thing. I still don't believe in ghosts, but I've definitely seen ghosts. So there you go. I have seen what could be described as ghosts.
Yeah.
Due to who knows what. Swamp gas reflecting off the atmosphere at just the right time when I was dehydrated and overworked and malnourished. Freaking out alone in the woods, lost at night. It's whatever. If you want more info on that, go listen to that episode. It's around somewhere. But anyway, so here we are in modern day times in this story. Flash forward a while. I get off the mountain. I'm like, I'm never going back. That was awful. And then I get an email that one of my good buddies has died in a motorcycle collision. So I was like, oh wow, that's harsh, Pretty good friend, but it's weird when you have good friend, or it's not really weird, but it's weird when you have good friends that you see every couple of years, because it doesn't seem like if it was someone that you saw every day and then they died, it'd be after a few days it would sink in that you're not going to see that person anymore. But when you're used to only seeing people every few years, it's weird because the absence isn't felt.
Right.
Because you're like, well, this is still the normal amount of like space that would be between visits. So like intellectually, you know that this person's dead, but like it doesn't feel real yet. So I'm coming to grips with all that, and I was like, ah, shit. But he too was a very adventurous fellow. So his family had him cremated and split the ashes amongst all his adventuring friends to spread all over the world in places that he liked to go or was planning to go. So some went to Hawaii with a mutual person that we know. Some went to Germany, the Grand Canyon, just all over the place. And they were like, yeah, Nash, where do you think would be like a good place? You're in Japan all the time, like the best place. And I was like, oh god, like in my head I was like, it can only be one place. Yeah. Son of a bitch. So I went to the States and I was like, yeah, you can, of course, no problem, I'm gonna take these to the top of Mount Fuji, you got it. And so I go to the States, grab the ashes, going back to Japan. Pro tip: when customs officers ask you what's in the jar of human remains, don't say a person's ashes, because they really don't like that. Like, it's like technically a biohazard that you're transporting, and
really?
Yeah, technically.
Really? Like,
yes. I should have just told him it was cocaine, because it was just a clear jar of like white ash. Like I could have just been like, Coke. It's fine. Do a line and we'll move along. Like, it's fine. But I was like, oh, these are a person's ashes, and it was a huge hassle. It's a huge hassle. I mean, I made it through. They let me make it through, but it was a real big hassle. So
really, I just find that really weird. They consider it a potential biohazard.
Yeah, potential biohazard, because they don't want people dumping it in their water and all.
Right.
I mean, all you got to do is look at India. Like, they cremate a lot of people, and it goes right into the Ganges. And,
right.
It's not great.
But I mean,
water,
is it more toxic than just regular ash?
I wouldn't think so. I would think once it becomes ash, it's just ash.
Right.
Like if it's properly ash, like there's not like bits of
like there's not chunks.
Yeah. I would think. I don't know for a fact, of course, but I would think that ash is ash once it's ash, unless it's radioactive or something like that. But I don't know for a fact. Maybe if someone knows, someone listening to this knows if people ash is different from like a cigarette ash.
Yeah, it's like I mean, there's probably some difference on like the
molecular level. Yeah, I mean, I suppose so. Yeah,
but I wouldn't think there'd be anything like pathogens.
Yeah, you wouldn't think so. You would think the cremation process would destroy.
Oh, okay, never mind. I was thinking of the scene in Fight Club where he was talking about lye in the river but that wasn't ash. That was like not, human.
Yeah,
like, just bodies.
Yeah. That wasn't lye. Good memory though. But yeah, they have a saying in Japan that is only a fool never climbs Mount Fuji, and only a fool climbs it more than once. and the meaning of that is that it is a miserable experience, but everyone should have it. But there's no reason someone should keep doing it. Yeah. Yeah, and all you got to do is watch videos of people doing it. Most of the time, people take a bus halfway up to the 5th station. They go up and down in a day and drive away, and they still consider it miserable. I climbed that whole damn mountain from very far away, so it was extra miserable.
I'll say, well, you started like 3 days hiking away.
It's like, I'm doing this all wrong. But yeah, so I'm hanging out at the dojo. Got my buddy's ashes, and I'm just trying to brainstorm, like, what am I gonna do here, And I was like, you know what? I already won. Like, I beat the mountain a year ago. So this is a year after I climbed it the first time, like almost to the month. A couple months difference. So I think it was like 14 months later, something like that, or maybe 12 months later. So I was like, yeah, well, what am I gonna do? I already won. Like I totally crushed this mountain. So I mean, I guess I could just like hop on a bus and go to the 5th station and then like climb up and like drop these bad boys off, spread them around, and then hop down. Like I'll be back by dinner time. Like no big deal. I'll be gone like a couple of days. And so I'm like, what about that? And everyone at the dojo was like, boo! That's not Nash-Style. That's not a thing Nash would do. Like, what? I can't believe those words even came out of your mouth. And I was like, you guys are right. What the hell? What the hell was I thinking? And they're like, yeah, this is like the final farewell to your buddy. Like you got to do it right. And I was like, yeah, you're right. This is a good chance for a training mission and like revenge against this mountain. And they're like, now you're talking. I was like, you know what? I'm gonna look into this. So I found this really old book that had different routes up Mount Fuji. And I was like, okay, well, I'm definitely not doing what I did last time. I'm not going that way. But I was like, you know what? I'm going to climb this whole mountain again. So I looked up some old routes, and I found one that was the old warrior monks trail, where the old warrior monks used to go up this way. And I was like, oh, perfect. Like the old Shugyo-sha, like someone who does Shugyo, which is like, it doesn't really have an English meaning, but ascetic training, like fasting, sitting under waterfalls, like hardship for the purpose of making yourself stronger. Which I regularly engage in. And I was like, this is perfect. This is what I'm going to do. I'll take this old warrior monks trail up, and I'm going to do it barefoot. I'm going all out. Like, I'm training mission style. 2 birds, 1 stone. I'm going to get these ashes to the top, and I'm going to conquer this mountain. Everyone was like, yeah, that's the way to do it. So I set a date that I was going to leave. I was like, all right, in 1 week, I'm going. I'm going to do it. And so then... right when I got ready to leave, there was a massive, like, hurricane typhoon thing that blew in, and there was all these landslides that just, like, decimated Japan.
So basically just, normal.
Anytime I try to do
plans
anything.
always go.
Yeah, typical Nash stuff. So
you arrive somewhere, and the weather just turns to shit.
Yeah, everything. And then I was like, shit, okay, well, I guess I'm not going to go today, because, like, parts of Japan are getting washed away. So we'll see what the weather's like later today. And I'm in the shower, get hit with a massive earthquake in Tokyo. I get the shit beat out of me while I'm in the shower. I'm just, like, bouncing off the walls and hitting stuff. I'm like, oh, jeez. And I didn't get anything broken. And thankfully, like, the building, we were a few floors up. So I'm back to living with my buddy in Tokyo at this time. I mentioned him previously. I say that we shared an apartment anytime I was there. Really, it was his apartment. He was just gracious, because I used to have my own, and then I gave it up when I moved out, when I stopped living there full time. But he was gracious enough to host me indefinitely when I would stop by for months at a time. And so I'm using his shower. We're a couple floors up, and yeah, I'm just getting the shit beat out of me. And I come out, he's like, oh my god, are you alright? I'm like, yeah, I don't think I'm going today. And so it's like, okay, we'll wait for this whole thing to blow over, and then I'm going to go next week. So I go back to the dojo, and they're like, oh yeah, you're still here? I'm like, yeah, the hurricane and the monsoon and everything and the landslides, and it's pretty rough, and the earthquake. And they're like, we figured you'd just go through it. And I was like, yeah, nothing's really running at the moment, and I don't want to hike for 6 months to get to Mount Fuji, so, we'll just go next week. And then my best Japanese friend, he's like, you're going to go next week. And I was like, yeah, that's right. And he's like, you realize next week is Obon, right? And I was like, no. And he's like, you know what Obon is, right? And I was like, no.
Is that like a big like fall festival kind of thing?
It is the autumn transition period where historically, in traditional belief in Japan, Obon is the time when the physical realm is closest to the spirit world. So it's the time when all the ghosts come out for about
Halloween.
a week. Yeah, it's like a week's long Halloween, and people go, they get that week off usually to go back to their ancestral homes and like pay respects at graveyards and stuff and shrines to because that's when the spirits are supposed to be closest. And he's like, are you serious? Like a year ago you came across like ghosts and a demon, and now you're going at the time when ghosts and demons are strongest, and you're going back there. And I was like, yes I am,
but not through the murder woods this time.
Yeah, well, I mean, I still have to go through the murder woods, but I have
a
path this time. I have the old warrior monk's path. And
instead of just wandering aimlessly.
Yeah, like this time I know.
And then camping out overnight because
I don't know it's a thing.
You don't know where you're going.
Yeah. This time I know it's a thing. I'm well prepared. And he's like, not only are you going at this time, but you're also going barefoot with like nothing. And I was like, yeah, that's right. And he's like, you're gonna get so hurt climbing Mount Fuji with no shoes, or die. And I was like, nah, this is me you're talking about. And he's like, yeah, I know, you're going to get super hurt or die. And I was like, I never get hurt, and I never stay dead. It's totally fine. And the week I was planning to go, he was fighting for the World Middleweight Kyokushin Championships. and or the champion title. And for those listening that don't know, Kyokushin is a form of karate that's basically just Muay Thai with no gloves or pads. So it's bare knuckle kickboxing, where the goal is to try to break your opponent's bones or knock them out. Is the main goal. And one of my favorite styles. And I was like, yeah, you're fighting for the world middleweight title while I'm gone climbing this mountain. Like, you don't think you're gonna get hurt doing this? And he's like, it's nothing out of the ordinary. And I'm like, okay, well, I'm pretty sure I'll be fine if you'll be fine. And he's like, all right, let's make a deal. Like, you succeed in doing this, and I'll succeed in doing this. I'm like, all right, we got a deal. So I went back to my buddy's apartment, and it's like time to start like gathering supplies. And my buddy was like, what supplies are you gonna gather? Like, you never take supplies. It was like, well, last time I didn't have any food or anything, so this time I'm gonna make some rice balls. I'm gonna hard boil some eggs. And he was like, that's a decent plan. And I was like, yeah, all right. And I was like, do you have anything that I could put these in and take them with me? And he was like, because I'm like so massively unprepared. And he's like, yeah, I've got this little pouch. And I was like, I would like to borrow your pouch, please. And so I get his pouch, make a few rice balls, make a bunch of hard-boiled eggs. And I was like, okay, you know what? In the morning, I'm going to leave. This is on. 4:30 in the morning. I'm doing it. And he was like, all right. I was like, I better go to bed now, like to rest up. So it's like 8:30. I go to bed. I'm just laying there, restless, can't sleep. And I could just feel this like crushing restlessness. And then at about 9, I was like, can't handle it, man, I'm leaving now. And he was like, what? He was like, it's 9 at night, like what? And he was like, why don't you just wait a little bit, like go back to bed. And I was like, you're probably right. So I go back to bed, and at 9:30 I was like, I'm leaving, this is it. So I leave at 9:30. I get to the train station at 10. Trains only run till midnight. I made it like less than a third of the way there, maybe a third of the way tops. Trains stop, everyone gets booted out. And I was just in the middle of nowhere, so I just walked next to this creek and just laid down on the ground and went to sleep until sunrise when the train started back up. Train started back up, got back on the train, got to, let's see, what is the name of this town? I think it was Fuji Yoshida. It was the name of the town. Checking my notes. Yeah, Fuji Yoshida. So I was looking for the Yoshida-guchi Trail offshoot for the old warrior monk trail. And so I get to Fuji Yoshida, and I'm like, game on. So I find the offshoot of there's like a temple and like an offshoot of this trail, and I start walking on the trail, and I just get into the woods, and I'm feeling really good. Like the weather's good, I'm upbeat. I'm like, yeah, and just barefoot, just going, just feeling the ground under my feet. It's feeling really good. I'm like, man, you know what I like best about this? There's nobody around. Like, this is nice. And then I hear these footsteps. And I'm like, well, those aren't my footsteps. And I kind of look around, and there's like an old Japanese guy behind me. Like, a decent way behind me, but close enough that I can hear his footsteps. And I was like, oh no. Like, politeness dictates that this guy's going to try to talk to me, and I just am not in the mood for conversation. So I was like,
just go into a jog.
Yeah, I was like, I don't want to jog. Like, I'm barefoot. I'm just trying to like enjoy this, but like maybe I'll just speed up my walk a little bit. But I'm a notoriously slow walker. Like, I only have 2 speeds: swaggering saunter or lightning bolt sprint. I have nothing in the middle. I'm either going all out or I'm walking real slow. Like, I'm a frustratingly slow walker for the people around me. Because it's 0 or 11 are my speeds. So I'm like, just speed up. But like, this guy's walking so fast for an old guy. Like, I can't outwalk this guy who's walking so fast. And I was like, oh man, here he comes. He's going to try to talk to me. And he gets like within polite talking range, and he gives me like a hello. And I just didn't say anything. So I was like, oh, I'm going to play the I don't understand his language card.
Like, yeah, just play the foreigner who doesn't speak any Japanese.
Yeah, so I was like, yeah, so he gives me a hello. And I didn't say anything. And then he gives me, that was in Japanese, and he gives me, first he gave me a hello in English, so I didn't say anything. And then he gave me a hello in like 12 other languages. And I still didn't say anything. Like, he's hitting me with every hello that there is outside of Papua New Guinea and Lagos, Nigeria. And I still don't say anything. And he says hello again in Japanese. And I was like, oh, hello. Because I was like, okay, he's obviously here to stay. He's really giving it a go. At this point, I'm just being an asshole. So I was like, oh, hello, just trying to pretend like I didn't hear those 900 other hellos you did right in my ear. And so we get to talking, and we're walking in tandem now, and like in my head I'm just like, oh God, like this is a really long pilgrimage that I'm on, and now here's this guy walking the same speed as me. I'm still at the start. Like, this is potentially going to be my whole life now with this guy. And so we're talking, and he's like, what's with the no shoes? And I was like, oh, I'm on a training mission. I'm on a pilgrimage. I'm doing ascetic training, and so I'm going to climb this whole mountain barefoot like the old warrior monks. And he was like, how'd you even find out about this trail? Like, no one knows about this trail. And I was like, oh, I saw it in a really old book. And he was like, oh, that's cool. And I was like, how do you know about this trail if no one knows about this trail? And he's like, oh, I know everything about this mountain. I know everything about this area. And I was like, oh, okay, that's cool. And we're walking. And he's like, so you're on like a training mission, huh? And I was like, yeah, I got my dead buddy's ashes here, and I'm gonna sprinkle them at the top, but it's like a spiritual training, like forge my spirit, my body, and everything. And he's like, you must be a real karate man. And I was like, yeah, I did dabble a little bit. And he's like, your special technique must be the axe kick. And I was like, actually, that is my special technique. How did you know? And he's like, I was a guess. I was just guessing. And I was like, it's a pretty good guess. And he's like, you ever hear that Andy Hoog? And I was like, yeah, that guy's my idol. We have the same body build and weight and everything, like very similar. And he was like, well, the axe kick's Andy Hoog's signature technique. And I was like, yeah, I know that. I know who he is. Like, he's my idol. And I was like, so you know anything about martial arts? And he's like, oh, I dabbled a little bit. And so we started talking a little bit. And this guy knew everything about everything that I knew about. And so we actually had like really in-depth like conversations. His grandfather or father, I don't know, whatever, him maybe, he's like 1,000,000 years old, trained with the founder of Shotokan karate, which is Kichin Funakoshi, because he was like, oh yeah, I do this style with some of these kata. And I was like, oh, that must be Shotokan. And he's like, oh yeah, you know your stuff. And I was like, oh, I know a little bit. And we're talking a little bit, and he's like, oh, yeah, well, I train at this dojo over here. I was like, are you talking about Funakoshi's dojo? And he's like, oh, you know him, huh? And I was like, I've heard of him. Because he's been dead a very long time now. And so I was like, wow, this guy knows all kinds of stuff. So I was like, oh, that's pretty crazy that you know everything about all the stuff that I would ever talk about. And I was like, well, how do you know about this mountain? And he's like, well, I'm pretty old. And I was like, how old are you? He's like, I don't know, like 65 or something. And I was like, okay, all right. And he's like, yeah, I've climbed Mount Fuji 25 times, at least. And I was like, 25 times? This is a miserable climb. Why would you endure this for 25 times? And he was like, why would you endure anything? Why endure climbing it barefoot? Why come back here at all? Why do anything? Why endure martial arts training? Like, that's pretty miserable most of the time. And I was like, fair enough. And I was a much less world weary person at that time. So yeah, now it's like, it's the misery is the point. The obstacle is the path. Like, that's why you do those things. But like at the time, I was just like, why would you do this 25 times? He's like, that's really nice out here. Nature, there's no one else around. I was like, formerly, there was no one else around. Now we are here together. And he's like, yeah, it's not so bad. He's like, you mind if I walk with you? And I was like, we were walking for hours now, so be my guest.
Apparently not.
Yeah. I was like, yeah, you've actually been a fun person to talk to. Like, all the stuff that I care about. So let's do it. So he got me through the woods, like we navigated, showing me all these different paths through the woods, and then we started climbing up, and he's like telling me all about the secret history of these different parts of the mountain, and he's showing me these old herbs and plants that ninja used to grind up poison for dripping down into people's mouths while they were sleeping to murder them without ever being caught, so that the ninja would like hide in the rafters of a ceiling.
Drip it down like a string.
Yeah, they'd like lower the string down into the mouth or close to the mouth of someone who was sleeping, and then drip the poison down, and the poison would drip into their mouth via the string. And then that way they could raise the string back up and leave through the roof and never get caught, and those people would be dead in their sleep. And I was like, wow, okay, well, I'm not going to eat those leaves or those berries. It's good to know. But yeah, he just knew all kinds of stuff, and I was like, wow, this is really cool. So we just palled around together, got to the 5th station, and I was like, nice, here we go. Here's where it really begins, because we get to the 5th station. That's the shanty town that's halfway up the mountain where most people take the bus to start, quote unquote. And of course, me and this guy have already been going for like a full day, and we're like, here we are at the beginning, made it. So I was like, all right, step 1, get a staff. I'm gonna get a staff, and I'm gonna get it branded this time, because the last time I made it up there, the guy refused to brand it with the mark from the top of the mountain, because the climbing season didn't start till the next day, and the furnace wasn't on. He's like, yeah, I'm not turning it on until tomorrow. Can't brand it. Come back tomorrow. I was like, I'm not coming back tomorrow.
I'm not climbing back all the way up tomorrow. Fuck you.
I just fought through Dante's Inferno to get here. I went through 9 circles of hell to climb this mountain. I'm not coming back tomorrow or ever. And then I came back. But I was like, okay, I'm going to get the staff, and then I'm going to get it branded at the top and give it to my buddy's mom, like, as a thing. Like, I did it. Like, I spread his ashes. Like, here's the photos. Here's all this stuff. And here's this staff from the top of the mountain. So I was like, nice. Plus, you kind of need it anyway, because it's, like, difficult to move without this staff. So I was like, all right, I got the staff. And so we're getting ready to move beyond the 5th station. And this one shopkeep was like, whoa, what, where's your shoes? And I was like, oh, I'm on a training mission. And he was like a martial arts training mission? And I was like, yeah, that's right, Shugyo. And he's like, wow, that's amazing, man. Like, you've come this far with no shoes? And I was like, that's right, and I'm going to the top. And he's like, that's crazy. And I was like, it's nothing. And then we walk, we're climbing for a few hours. Then we get to the 6th station, and as we're getting to the 6th station, and everything above the 5th station is just like 1 or 2 shacks, like just small little outposts, like not a shanty town at all, just like one shack, maybe 2 shacks, and that's it. You might get a bottle of water or like have a poop. There's nothing really going on, and so we're getting up there, and then we're getting ready to approach the 6th station, and like the person that's manning the shack like pokes their head out, and they're like, oh, no way. And like I get up there, and the guy's like, you're real. And I was like, excuse me? And he's like, yeah, the guy from the 5th station just called me and told me that there was some foreigner climbing the mountain barefoot, like on a martial arts pilgrimage, and I thought he was full of shit. Like, I didn't believe him. And here you are. And I was like, oh yeah, like that's me, I'm doing it. And he's like, that's crazy, man. And I was like, I guess, like, I never really thought of it. All the people at my my martial arts dojo thought it was a really cool thing, so I never really considered that this would be that amazing. And he was like, yeah, I don't know if anyone's ever climbed Mount Fuji barefoot before, and not in modern times anyway.
Right.
And I was like, well, I'm doing it. And so we kept going on, and then we get to the 7th station, and there's like a few people there, and they're like, here he comes. And like
you're good. You got your own, like, if that's motivation for you, you got
so
your
I'm
own, like cheering squad at every station.
So I get to the 7th station, and they're like, woo, yeah, look at you go. And they're like, wow, that like the rumors were true. And I was like, rumors, huh? And then they tell me that they heard on the wind.
Word's been spreading across the mountain.
we hear tell on the wind's breath of a man traveling such as yourself. And I was like, yeah, I'm not exaggerating when I tell you that I became a legend on this mountain. So I start approaching the 8th station, and there is a large group of people cheering for me. They're just like, he's coming. I get there, and this guy's like, is it true? And I was like, oh, you mean me climbing the mountain barefoot on this training mission to be the best? Yeah, the legends are true. And he's like, and he was like, you are more Japanese than Japanese. Like, you know how the Japanese get, where they're just like overly complimentary, like just being very polite. But I think they were legitimately impressed. But yeah, they were just like, oh, you're so amazing. And I was like, yeah, I'm pretty awesome. And it's like, I became a legend. Like one person was like, I wish we had a film crew up here. This would be incredible. And I was like, I also wish you had a film crew up here. I was like, yeah, don't mind me. Just a fucking awesome guy climbing the mountain barefoot, being the best that ever was. Don't pay me any mind. Like, yeah, have you seen my beach ball? Just like, it's over there. It's just like flexing and stuff. Like, yeah, training mission going awesome. get to the ninth station, and it's basically the same as the eighth, but bigger, like more people. And they're just like, "Wow, you're incredible! You got this!" And I was like, "Yeah!" And I'm just feeling like jazzed, man. And it was like a really like amazing experience. And but Mount Fuji isn't particularly pleasant on the feet when you have shoes. Like it's a volcano. Like once you get above like this,
at a point you just get that like you get that volcanic rock. That's
yes,
just,
it's
like,
all volcanic
shards
rock.
Of glass essentially.
Yeah, it's all volcanic rock. Like above the sixth station, and so I got to the ninth station and everyone's clapping and stuff, but I'm moving real slow, and I'm just like and like every step is fairly painful, but like I see all these people cheering me on and stuff, and I'm like, yeah, all right, I got this, I can do this. And it was actually, I don't think I would have made it to the ninth station if I didn't see that all these people were expecting me to be there. So I was like, yeah, all right, I can't let these people down. I can do it.
I've got to live up to my legend that just happened.
It just started. I can't let this legend crumble. It's only one day old. Please don't let me ruin this legend so soon. And so yes, I get to the ninth station, and everyone's like, the legend is here. And they're like, it's the legendary man, which is kind of a common phrase in Japanese, like the legendary man. But they're just like, it's the legendary man. And I was like, yeah, that's me. But then the 10th station is the top, right? So get to the 9th station, everything's great, except I'm very tired, moving very slow. My feet hurt real bad. So then we start moving up, and this old guy, Otsuki, has been with me the entire time. Like he's just been like subtly keeping me going this whole time. He's been with me every step of the way since I started.
So I was going to ask, like, after you got to the city, what happened to him? Where did he go?
Right, good question.
So he's been with me.
He's been with me this whole time, and because between the stations, there's nothing going on. Like it's just dead volcanic rock and ferocious winds beating the shit out of you. So it was kind of nice to have this guy to talk to, who's a very good conversationalist. Also, he knew like 12 languages. He was fluent in, because apparently his hobbies were climbing this mountain and learning languages. And I guess he was retired. I don't know what else. We'll get into that later though, because that factors into the Nash part of the story. Because all my whole life follows a very common structure of something sounds like a good idea. I set out, everything goes wrong. I barely escape and break even. There's some kind of like struggle along the way, and then there's some kind of unbelievable / supernatural element, and then I wind up right back where I started with nothing to show for it except a story. So that's coming. So as we pass the 9th station, we're now between the 9th and 10th stations on our way to the 10th. Once the 9th station is like out of sight, but the 10th is nowhere to be seen, like the toll of the journey is now catching up to me. So like every step is agony, and I like every time I take a step, like the bottom of my foot felt like shredded hamburger meat, and every time I'd step on a rock, when I would try to lift it, it would like kind of do that like slow peel up, like a like cheese, like a fast food cheese wrapper. Like you get a cheeseburger and it's like every time I would lift my foot up this rock, and every time I would do this, it made me want to vomit. It hurt so bad. Like you just like, I don't know if you ever had a physical pain that hit you so hard that you felt like you were gonna vomit, but it was like that every time I took a step. And it got to the point where like I was taking like a couple minute breaks between each step because it was so agonizing. And I was like leaning on the staff with most of my weight because I just didn't want to put any weight on my feet anymore. They hurt so bad, and I didn't want to look at my feet because I could feel them like sticking to the ground. And I was like, if I look at the bottom of my feet, it might psych me out. I might like freak out and not be able to go anywhere or do anything. I might just throw up and pass out or whatever. Like I don't want to see what's going on down here because I can feel what's going on, and it's not good. So, but I'm going, and eventually like I just can't go anymore. Like I just broke down. I was like, that's it, man. Like I can't get to the top of this mountain. And like the old guy was like, what do you mean? And I was like, dude, I'm messed up. Like I can't walk or stand. Like I can barely breathe. I feel like I'm gonna puke. I'm in so much pain. Like this was a pretty good run, I guess, but like this is it. Like I can't go on. Like I hurt really, really bad. And he was like, well, I don't understand. And I was like, well, like my feet are messed up and I'm in like a lot of physical pain. And he's like, no, I don't understand how you could stop. Like, this is your final journey to your dead friend. You promised his family that you would do this, and you promised him this is the last moment you're ever going to get to like share with your dead friend. I thought you were a martial artist on a training mission. Like, there is no stopping. You go, and that's it. There is nothing but obstacles in life, and you go over them or through them or around them, but you don't stop. And I was like, yeah, I think you're right. And he was like, yeah. And then like he gave me this like really motivational speech, because he was just like, yeah, you can't give up on your dead friend. You can't give up on your training mission. You can't do this. Like, this is the only path through life, is to do this. And I was like, yeah. And so in Kyokushin, there's a phrase that they use in a couple other styles, and it's os, which is a contraction for oshi shinobu, which is oshi is like to push forward, like you just push, and shinobu is like the verb form for shinobi, which is to endure. So it means like you're pushing forward and you're enduring everything. And so like anytime in Kyokushin that someone tells you something, that's how you respond. They're like, do 10 push-ups. You're like, os, like I will push through this and I will endure. Or it's like, like fight 20 guys right now. And you're like, it's like, are you hurt? You're just like, os, like I will push through this. So the guy's like, os. And I was like, os. And he's like, louder. And I was like, os. And he's like, yeah, to the top. And like, so yeah, so he like, because of his like motivational last minute like speech.
He was your Mickey in the corner.
He was, yeah. He's like, don't be a piece of shit, Rock. And I was like, hey, and yeah, so I did it. I made it to the top. And it was grueling, don't get me wrong, but like I made it with this guy. Like anytime I'd slow down, he'd just be like, oh, and I'd be like, oh, it's just like screaming, because like every step was still painful. It's not like this guy's like motivational speech like cured me of my pain. I was just able to push through. And I was like, yeah, like this is a training mission right here. Like this is what ascetic shugyo is all about. And I get to the top, I get to the peak, and I spread my buddy's ashes, and like the sun is setting like very majestically. It's a very beautiful scene, and like for that brief moment, I succeeded in overcoming that obstacle that, for all intents and purposes, had destroyed me both physically and psychologically and emotionally. But I overcame it anyway, and then like I spread my buddy's ashes, and then I like came to the realization that he really was dead, and I wasn't gonna see him again. And I was just like wiped from that. I just broke down into tears, like for like 5 minutes. I was just weeping at the top of this mountain, like by myself. And like the old guy like probably knew this was coming, so he kind of made himself scarce. So it's just me up there, and then I collected myself, and I was like, man, like I did it. Like I felt so accomplished, and I was like, man, I'm like this was incredible. And then he came back, and he's like, yeah, I knew you had it in you. You've got dragon soul. And I was like, yeah. And he's like, two meaning dragon soul, like heart of a dragon, and your feet like a dragon feet. Dragon soul, two meanings, you see, because he knew so many languages that puns. Yeah. Everyone loves a good pun, so yeah, I've got a dragon soul, 2 meanings. The heart of a dragon, and also my feet are like thick like a rhino's feet. And I was like, yeah, I wouldn't have made it if it wasn't for you. And he's like, of course you would have. Don't worry about it. And he's like, well, I'm gonna stay in this hut up here overnight, so this is where we part ways. And I was like, yeah, I can't stay up here because it costs a ton of money, and you gotta know people, and they're always booked way in advance, and I wouldn't want to stay up here anyway. Like I succeeded. And he's like, yeah, well, this is where we part ways. So we got our picture taken together and everything. And I was like, but I've got one more thing. I'm gonna go get this staff branded. So I go into the hut, this like temple hut at the top of Mount Fuji, where the furnace is, and where you could pay a sum of money to stay overnight and then wake up and watch the sunrise on top of the mountain, which I wasn't gonna do. And so I go into the hut, and I was like, brand my stick. And the guy was like, oh, actually, it's quite late. I just shut the furnace off. You'll have to come back tomorrow. And I was like, I'm not fucking coming back tomorrow.
Look at my fucking feet.
Yeah, I was like, I just, once again, you might remember me from 12 months ago. Having fought through all sorts of supernatural terrors, I became myself a supernatural terror and overcame this whole mountain. And now you will brand this stick. And he's like, no, I physically can't. Like, that thing's off. You got to come back tomorrow. And I was like, nah!
You hear tale of the legend?
So then, as I'm just staring at him, like this really pregnant pause, it was probably only 2 seconds, but it felt like an eternity when I'm realizing that, yet again, I'm not going to get the stick branded. He kind of looks down and he's like, wait, where are your shoes? And I was like, I didn't wear any. I climbed up here barefoot. And he's like, wait.
You're him?
Yeah, he was like, wait, are you the guy who journeyed all the way up here with no shoes on a training mission? And I was like, why, yes, you've obviously heard of me. And so in my head, I'm like, well, this guy is going to be another starstruck fan, and he's going to fire this shit right up or chisel it on there himself or whatever. And he was just like, you're a fucking idiot. Like, do you have any idea, like, how many jagged pieces of garbage are on this mountain? You probably have tetanus and any number of other diseases. You're lucky to even be alive. And I was like, oh, you are not a fan. I see. And he's like, you're so dumb. Like, I can't believe you're even alive. Why would you even think to do this? And I was like, training mission. I'm doing a training thing up here. Perhaps you've heard of me. He was like, yeah, you what? How dumb are you? And I was like, right. So I'm not gonna get this brand. Then I take it. And he's like, no, it's off. You can come back tomorrow or whenever. And I was like, yeah, I'm definitely not gonna do that. So I leave. I go to leave, and I was like, well, shit. Like, I can't stay up here outside because I'm way at the top of this mountain, and if it gets properly dark and I'm up here, I'm gonna freeze to death because I don't have any like clothing appropriate for this. I don't even have a jacket. But I did bring, in case shit got real bad, emergency flip-flops. So I was like, you know, just in case.
That's where it's like, yeah, you get up there, but like the way you're describing, like you're pretty much like
yeah, I was like
fucking spent.
Yeah,
so,
I
like,
was.
You still gotta climb down.
That was mountain. That was a one-way barefoot journey. Like if I had to go down barefoot, I'd have been like, "Could I please stay in your hut? Can you send someone up to get me?"
Just roll the rest of the way.
Just take a deep breath and log roll down. I'm like, here we go. Ugh. But I did drop a camera off of Mount Fuji one time on accident trying to take a picture, and I was like, oh, that's gone forever. That's bye, camera. But yeah, so I had these flip-flops, and I was like, man, it's getting dark. I'm going to put these flip-flops on for safety because I can't see where I'm going because I didn't bring a flashlight because I'm an idiot, which we've already established. The guy already established it for me. I'm an idiot. I had no supplies outside of my my pouch of hard-boiled eggs. And so it's like, shit, I don't have a light. I'm going to put these flip-flops on for safety. So I sit down to put the flip-flops on my feet, and for the first time I look at my feet. And I look at my feet, and they are completely fine. Not a scratch. Like, at all. That's what I said. I was like, huh. And I was like, that's something. Like, I was just like, I don't know. Maybe my feet were really sweaty before, and all the bits that I felt were like bits of other rock sticking to my feet, so it felt like my foot. I don't know. I didn't have time to rationalize. I was just like, my feet are totally fine. That's great. On with the flops down this mountain. So I'm kind of like walking around the top of Mount Fuji, and I'm like, all right, how am I going to do this? Like, it's rapidly getting dark. And I overhear there's a man and a woman with two kids, two young children, like probably 5 years old and 8 years old up there. Or maybe 8 and 10. I don't know. I don't know the development cycle of human beings. They were children. They were young children. They were not yet teenagers. And one of them was very much younger than the other one. This man and woman were talking, and they were talking about going back down. And they had a flashlight. And I kind of just sauntered up to him, and I was like, hey, are you guys going down on the 5th station? And they're like, yeah, we got to get down in a hurry, though, because it's going to get dark soon. And, you know, we got these kids. And, yeah, it turned out to be a man and wife. And I was like, well, I noticed you got a light. Would it be all right if I followed you down? Or, like, could you at least point me in the right direction? And the wife was like, oh, I've got this book that showed a shortcut on the way down. It's only going to take us like 2 hours to get back to the 5th station. And I was like, oh, that is perfect. Like, could I take this shortcut with you, please? And she's like, yeah, no problem. So 5 hours later,
saw that coming.
It is so dark. And we are definitely, I don't know where we were on Mount Fuji, but it wasn't the way we came up. And at one point in time, we were literally rappelling down the side of the mountain. And for the most part, climbing Mount Fuji, there's like a path up there. Yeah. Like it's not an easy path. Like you gotta like clamber, you gotta do a little bouldering over some rocks or whatever. But at one point in time, we were like rappelling down a steel cable. And I was like, this doesn't feel right. I'm pretty sure this isn't the way that I came. I don't know how you guys got up here, but this is not the way I got up here. And so we're like rappelling down the cable, and it's so late. And then it was like 2 a.m. It's still dark. We're still not at the 5th station. And the husband, everyone's tired. Like, they've been climbing all day. I've been climbing for days. And the kids, up until that point, had done a very good job of just, like, soldiering through. But kids are kids. Mm. And they'd been up at least the entirety of the day climbing. And I know they hadn't slept or eaten since I came across them, and it was now 2 a.m. A normal adult would be grumpy. These were like 8-year-old children, lost at night on the side of this mountain. So they just started a fight with each other. They were just screaming and yelling at each other. And I was like, oh, this is how it starts. So then the dad, like, yells at the kids, and then the mom yells at the dad for yelling at the kids. So the dad yells at the mom, and then, like, this huge domestic dispute, like, erupts. And I'm just like, kind of just stranded here with you guys. It's real dark, so I can't leave. Like, I don't know where I'm at. So I guess I'm just going to watch you guys scream in each other's faces, because you guys are like, wow, this is all your fault. You fucking shortcut. This is you. You did this. And it's just like, yeah, great. We'd made it below the volcanic rock line, so now we're, like, in sort of jungle territory. And it's just like, well, here we are, like, together, watching you yell at these people, like, let's move along. Thinking to myself, of course, because I don't want to jump into this. But they finally kept going, and we did make it to the 5th station, finally. It's 2:33 in the morning, and everything's closed. The shantytown is closed, and I'm looking around, and I'm like, wait, hang on a minute. This is not my 5th station. Because there's a ton of 5th stations around Mount Fuji.
Mount Fuji, for people don't know, it's very wide.
It's a very wide mountain. Yeah, it's a very wide mountain. So halfway up this very wide mountain, it's still very wide. So there's several 5th stations, several shantytowns. And what had happened was I climbed up Mount Fuji, got lost, climbed down the opposite side, and now I was on the wrong side of Japan. Nice. And I was just like, this isn't my Mount Fuji side. I need to get to the other 5th station. And everything was closed. This guy was like, hey, we're going to take a taxi from here. Do you want to get in this taxi with us? And I was like, well, where's it going? The guy's like, oh, it's going to this train station over here. And I was like, man, I don't know this area on this side of the mountain. There's one guy up here, like a guard looking guy. Let me ask him. And I was like, hey man, these guys are taking a taxi to this train station. Is that where I want to go? I'm trying to get to Shinjuku. And he was like, oh no, like you can't really, I mean, you can get anywhere from anywhere, but like that's not where you want to go. You need, like, if you wait here till we open up, we got a bus that'll take you right there. And I was like, oh, sweet. So I went up to the guys and I was like, hey, thank you for the offer of the taxi, but I'm going to pass. This guy says if I just chill out here till sunrise, I got a bus that's taking me right where I'm going. And they're like, okay, cool. Peace out. So the family leaves. And I was like, awesome. What are we going to do about, like, me just existing out here? And the guy was like, I don't know. You do you. You gotta survive until sunrise. And so I was like, okay. So he, like, left and locked himself back up in his guard thing. So
like, you just huddle in a corner somewhere. Hope you survive the night.
Yeah, and that was it. So I'm still above the cloud line. No shoes. I had flip-flops. No jacket. Just jeans and a t-shirt. And so I curled up into a ball on the ground, tried to wait till morning, and I could feel myself literally freezing to death. Like, I was going hypothermic. I could feel it. And I'm like fading in and out of not consciousness like you're sleeping, but consciousness like you're dying. And I was like, oh man, this is it. Is this going to be like time number 3 that I die? Is this for real? Is this the permanent one? And like every now and again, some rando would find me. And I was like, how are other people up here and why? What's going on? But like I was too close to death to like care, but I could just like hear them commenting as they walked by, and I remember vividly this one girl stopped over me, looked at me, and was like, if nobody gets this guy something, he's gonna die. And then she left. And that was it. And I was like, you bitch. I'm dying. You fucking bitch. Thanks for the comment. No. And, yeah, so I was just like, ugh. And then I finally get up after like over an hour of this. It's been like an hour and a half. And then I wake up and the place is packed of people. And I was like, what is going on? Turns out they'd all journeyed there because right when I got up, there was this amazing meteor shower that they'd all come up to the 5th station of Mount Fuji for at like 4:30 in the morning before the sunrise to watch this crazy meteor shower above the cloud line. If you've never climbed a really tall mountain above the clouds, the view of the Milky Way and the atmosphere is incredible. And to see a meteor shower, and that was like really crazy. And I was like, oh wow, like I'm not a superstitious guy, but like this is all fate, like, or serendipity, because like I never would have seen this if I hadn't come down the wrong side and gotten stranded. And so the theory was like, oh yeah, like one of my buddies was like, oh, that was your dead friend's like final gift to you, like as the universal thank you for like spreading, like enduring what you needed to endure to get his ashes up there. This is like the sort of reward, like your final bonding thing. And I was like, man, this is beautiful. Like this is a once in a lifetime sort of thing. It was really, really incredible. And then it was over and the sun came up and I was like, man, wow, that was something. So I go back up to the guard, who has since changed shifts. It's a different guy now. And I'm talking to him and just asking him some questions. And every time I ask him something in Japanese, he responds in English, to which I respond in Japanese. And eventually he was like, stop talking to me in Japanese. I'm trying to practice my English. I never get to talk to anybody in English. It's my only chance. Don't be so selfish. You see Japanese people all the time. You're in Japan. I never see anyone who's like a native English speaker. And I was like, fair enough. That was selfish of me. I apologize. Let's continue in English. And I was like, yeah, what time does the bus to Shinjuku get here? And he was like, bus to Shinjuku? I was like, yeah, the guy who was at your post before you told me that you've got one leaving this morning. I was just wondering what time it is. And he was like, we don't have a bus to shit. You're on the wrong side of the mountain. You gotta go to the train station and like take a series of trains to like get to where you need to go to get a train, to get a train, to get a train, to get you back to where you're going. And I was like, what was the name of that train station? And he told me, and it was exactly where this taxi was going. I was like, this guy from the previous night totally hosed me. I could have been where I needed to be, but instead I almost froze to death above the tree line, or above the cloud line on Mount Fuji. Of course, if I'd have left, I wouldn't have seen the meteor shower, but still, what a bitch move, other guy.
Yeah.
So I had to wait for half a day until a bus came to take me to the train station, to where I could start my long train-changing journey to change trains a million times to get back to Shinjuku. And I looked like shit, of course, because I'd just been through hell again climbing this mountain. So finally riding these trains looking like I just climbed out of a volcano, like an active volcano. Finally get back to my buddy's apartment. Of course, there was no ETA for my return, so like I was just like, well, see you when I see you. Just like my famous bye. Yeah. Just like, oh, I'll be back if I don't die. You'll know if I'm dead somehow. And so I get back. He's not home. He's at work because he's a productive human being. And I didn't have a key to the apartment, but they had like a shared foyer where all the apartments kind of like faced into a collective sort of area, like a hall, like a big sort of, I don't know what to call it, atrium, I guess. And so I was like spent for real, and I just collapsed on this wooden floor, like spread out, head up, on my back. And then his neighbor, like a couple hours later, his neighbor opens the door and she was like, oh my God, what happened to you? And I was like, oh, I've been gone for a few days, climb Mount Fuji barefoot from a few towns over, and then I made it to the top, and like, whatever, now I'm back. She was like, Jesus, like, is there anything I could do for you? I was like, I would like some water, please, and a pillow if you have one. So she got me like a big glass of water and a pillow, and I drank the water, and I put my head on the pillow, and I passed out for like a day. And then my buddy came home, and he was like, "Whoa, you're looking terrible." I was like, "Yeah, but I'm alive. I made it." And so then I get back to the dojo the following day, or a couple days later, I get back to the dojo, and my buddy, my best Japanese buddy, he was like, "Did you do it?" And I was like, "Yeah, man, I did it." And he was like, "Show me your feet." And I showed him my feet. He was like, "Bullshit, they're fine." And I was like, "Yeah, man." And of course, there's a big group of us all sitting in a circle, you know, having some beers or whatever. And I'm regaling them with the story. I'm like, "Did you do it?" And he's like, "Yep, I'm world middleweight champion now." And I was like, "Nice, you know, we kept our words." And so I'm telling them all the story. I regale them with the story. And just like last time, then they hit me with these questions. And I'm like, "What?" And so they're like, "Oh, so you re-entered these woods?" And I was like, "Yep." But, you know, I was on the old warrior monk trail. And they're like, "And you barefoot. You climbed the whole thing barefoot." And I'm like, "Yeah, that's right." And they're like, "So as you enter these woods, you get a few hours in, and then a mysterious old man just finds you." And I was like, "Yeah, that's right." They're like, "By himself, just around." And I was like, "Yeah." And they're like, "And he knew everything about martial arts." And I was like, "Yeah, he knew everything about all the things that I know about. And everything about the mountain, because he's climbed it for like 1,000,000 years or whatever." And they're like, "Okay." And then he, like, led you up the mountain. And I was like, "Yeah, after we talked for a while in the woods, you know, walking around, like, he led me through everything and, like, taught me everything." And they're like, "And then, after you think that your feet are, like, ripping off of your body and you can't go on anymore, he, like, bestows upon you the power to keep going." And I was like, "That's correct." And they're like, "And then, when your quest is finally over and you guys part ways, your feet are fine, magically." And I was like, I wouldn't say magically, but sure, yeah, they're fine. And they're like, "This guy was a tanuki for sure." And I was like, "What?" And they're like, "Yeah, tanuki, man, obviously." And I was like, "What do you mean?" And for those of you that don't know, do you know what a tanuki is?
Are they like the raccoon spirit?
They are
with giant testicles.
They have giant testicles. Yeah, they are a real animal, but they're also a mythological animal. So they're kind of, a tanuki is a tanuki, but they kind of look like a cross between a raccoon and a badger.
Yeah.
But in mythology, they live in, they're shape-shifting spiritual beings that are super wise, but they live in, like, cursed woods and places like that. I mean, they go into towns to, like, get totally drunk and dick around, but then they go back to their, like, cursed woods and stuff. But they're super wise. But what they do a lot of the times is they will change shapes and stuff. And when travelers enter these, like, dangerous, crazy test sort of areas, the tanuki will present itself and, like, set all these tests in motion. And then if you fail the test, it will leave you to your fate to die or whatever in these terrible areas. But if you pass, then it guides you along and, like, makes sure that you succeed and, like, can give you knowledge and bestow upon you, like, you know, not Greek, but, like, bestows upon you sort of gifts of, like, knowledge or power or healing or whatever, sort of like a Greek fable would. And they're like, "Yeah, all the signs are there, man. This guy was a tanuki. Like, he knew everything about the mountain in the area. He knew all the languages. He knew everything about everything you were into. Like, he obviously, like, totally read you, like, from a mile away, just showed up from out of nowhere in the woods. And then when he found out you were, like, he judged you as worthy, and then he got you through the woods. And then when you almost failed, like, off on the mountain, he gave you the final push you needed to succeed. And then as a parting gift, he healed you fully so that you could get down from the mountain since you finished your quest." And I was like, "Well, sure, when you put it that way, it all seems pretty exactly like that's what happened. But I mean, I'm not a superstitious guy. I'm just saying that the last time I did this, that, oh yeah," and then they were like, "Yeah, and it's Obon, so, like, this is the time when all the spirits are at their strongest, so of course you're gonna come across, like, supernatural beings." And they're like, "Last time you fucking fought demons and ghosts and then all sorts of stuff, you battled through hell, and this time you come across the supernatural tanuki and he helps you along on your quest." And I was like, "Yeah, that's one way of looking at it, I guess. I mean, I'm not a superstitious guy, but Maybe. Okay. I'm not gonna completely write it off. It definitely like all these things happened.
Yeah, so weird shit happened.
Yeah, weird shit happened. That's all you can say is like, here's all the things that happened. You can draw whatever conclusion you like. If you are inclined to believe in the weirder things of the world, then, you know, I can't disprove that this guy was or was not a supernatural raccoon from the spirit world. Can't prove that he wasn't. So there you go.
Well, it's hard to prove a negative.
It's
easier to be like, he was great. He was a Tanuki.
Yeah, they're like, it all checks out, man. I'm like, well, I can't really argue with you on any of those points. Like, all those things are things, and they do line up with. I was like, he could have just been a very suspiciously psychic old man who knew everything about the area somehow. But yeah, so there you go. So most of my stories start out with what seems like a good idea. I set off on an epic quest, and then I get lost. Everything goes terribly, terribly wrong. There's some amazing, unbelievable thing that happens. Some kind of struggle. And then I barely scrape out of it, and get right back to where I started with nothing but a story to show for it. But I'm no worse for the wear. So once again, it's the exact thing. And my best Japanese buddy, who's once again his favorite saying is, "I'm only alive because I'm too stupid to know I'm supposed to be dead." He's the guy who won the World Middleweight Kyokushin Championship and retained that title for like 5 years. But he was like, "Did you at least take food this time?" And I was like, "Yeah, man, I took food this time. Like, I went prepared." And he's like, "What did you take?" And I was like, "Look, a day or two before I left, I hard-boiled a bunch of eggs." And he was like, "You hard-boiled a bunch of eggs?" And I was like, "Yeah." And then I took him with me. And he was like, "You were gone for like a week." And I was like, "Yeah, I was eating the hard-boiled eggs." He was like, "What did you use to keep them cold?" And I was like, "What do you mean?" He's like, "They go bad." I was like, "They do? I thought that's why you hard-boiled them." He's like, he was like, "No, that doesn't help them not go bad. You're just walking around with a pouch of rotting eggs." And I was like, "Oh, well, I ate them all, so." And he was like, "Yep, once again, you're only alive because you're too stupid to know you're supposed to be dead. You got magic-ass creatures keeping you alive. Any normal person would be dead so many times over." And I was like, "Well, you know, I'm obviously worthy."
So if it wasn't for Tanuki, you would have died of food poisoning up there.
Yeah, and any number of other things. He probably kept all the other demons away. Like, yeah, who knows what was lurking around. But yeah, just another notch in my belt on the long line of miserable quests and bastards who tried to stop me from doing what I was doing. And I succeeded again, as I always have and always will. Until finally I don't. Something will take me out eventually.
Until the time I don't.
Until the time I don't. Until such time as I do not. But now, yeah, that was what year is this? That was like 10 years ago. So I've had quite a good interim between then and now, because that wasn't. I was a seasoned adventurer then, and now I'm like a crusty old seasoned adventurer now. I'm so jaded now. Like I could just like be hiking through some, like I'll go to Antarctica and a dragon will fly out of the ice and people will be like, "Oh my god, this is incredible!" And I'll be like, "This is a regular day for me. And I'm just gonna kill this dragon. So if this dragon does not kneel before me, I'm going to murder this dragon. So I hope no one wants to catch this."
Plunge my fist into his molten heart.
Yeah, I'm gonna
be the Iron Fist.
Yeah, yes, yeah. I'm not the immortal Iron Fist. It's fine. Who brought the magic axe? I'm definitely killing this dragon. It was on the list. Someone better be carrying my magic axe. But yeah, it's just normal stuff. Like, hope no one's trying to scientifically capture this thing, because I'm definitely killing it. Just so we're clear, if it gets in our way. I'm trying to find the treasures hidden in Antarctica. I don't have time for dragons. It's just a regular day. And then something will happen. I'll discover the treasures. I'll fight the dragon. I'll escape. All the treasures will be lost. I'll be no better off, but I'll have a really good story. The end. Or I'll die. That'll be the one that takes me out. Who knows? But
so, it's going to be when you actually attain everything.
Yeah,
that's when you're going to die.
Yeah. What am I after though? Like, what do you mean attain everything?
Like you'll get some kind of like crazy like relic that proves.
That proves all my theories. Be like, this is it, I did it. And then I get
like
eaten by the dragon
or something.
Yeah, I get eaten by the dragon, and the people who are around see it happen. But then there's a cave-in, and no one can prove that the dragon exists. So they go tell the story that no one believes, and then I become the new modern day Mitchell Hedges, who was an amazing archaeologist who contributed a lot to history, but was constantly ridiculed because at the end of his life, he said he found the crystal skull, and nobody believed him. But like, he has a lot of documented things that he really did that were amazing, but for some reason...
That one thing where it's like, bullshit.
Yeah, and it may very well be bullshit, but if it is, that's fascinating, because like, if he had such an amazing life that's well documented to be amazing and contributing all kinds of stuff, why would you make up this one thing to completely like negate all that other stuff you did? And if you didn't make it up, what the hell? Why is everyone so against this being a thing? You already did all these other things. I don't know what would possess someone. Kind of like the Pirates of the Caribbean movies, like Captain Jack Sparrow has all these amazing things he's actually done, but he's still compelled to like make up new stuff. Like, you already did all this amazing stuff. Like, why would you make up this other thing? Just talk about the stuff you did. So yeah, I'm always terrified people are gonna lump me in that category, because they're gonna be like, yeah, I don't know, like, I know he did some stuff, but like, then he said he fought a dragon, and that's probably none of that happened. Like, but why would I make it up, you guys? It happened. I'm the Iron Fist. My chi is so strong sometimes. I gotta focus real hard.
My fist will start glowing. I can like punch through iron.
Really, it's not a good plot device.
But only sometimes.
Only sometimes. I'm the mostly mortal Iron Fist. Yeah, so that's me. So any questions about that little escapade that I went on? The second time I climbed Mount Fuji?
Or are you planning a third time to go on your hands?
Well, I was like, okay, you know what? 2 times down, I am never going back to this mountain. Like, the guy at the top of this mountain can eat a big bag of unbranded dicks, because I don't want to climb this mountain anymore. Like, I did it. I won so hard.
Yeah.
And I was like, there's no reason for me to go back. Like, I don't want to end up like Tanuki Man. Be like, I've climbed this mountain 25 times. It's miserable every single time. But I know everything about everything now. Like, maybe that's the curse. Maybe that guy was just another one of me. And then maybe I'll become the Tanuki. Maybe I'll get swallowed by the spirit of Mount Fuji. I'd rather not. So I was like, yeah, I just have no desire. Like, how do you top climbing it barefoot from far away, like, aided by a supernatural being? I don't know how to do that. So I was like, yeah, I won. No reason to go back. And then the guy I'm going to Japan with in a few weeks, he was like, I'd like to climb Mount Fuji. Can we do that? It's like, fine. But if we do it, we're doing it my way. Like, we're not going to take a bus halfway up. We're going all the way. And he's like, oh, jeez, I don't know. That sounds really hard. And I was like, yeah, it's fucking hard. It's going to be real hard. He's like, where are we going to stay? Like, on the ground.
We're going to stay?
Yeah.
Stay on the mountain.
Yeah. It's like, is it going to be cold? I was like, it's going to be super cold. It's a mountain. It's a mountain surrounded by death and spirits. You're going to be the coldest you've ever been. You're going to be cold to your soul, which doesn't exist, by the way. But you're going to feel it.
And we're going to do it in nothing but loincloths.
That's right. Oh, shit. What are those called? The
like, cool knot.
Yeah, they've got I can't think of the name. That, like, not mawashi like sumo wrestlers wear, but the...
No, I know what you're talking about,
yes.
but I don't know the name of it either.
It's not a...
like the butt thong.
Yeah, it's not a... Like, Heihachi from Tekken's always around.
Yeah.
It's not a Fudo thing. I don't know, because there was one chick in Alaska who was, like, obsessed with the hilarious idea of me wearing those. She was just like, yeah, in my mind, anytime you tell a story, like, under your clothes, you're wearing this. Or, like, you go to hot springs and you're just wearing this all the time. It just screams like something you would wear. Like, you're just ready to rip off your clothes at a moment's notice to, like, wrestle somebody and you're wearing one of these. And I was like, it's not out of the realm of possibility, to be honest.
See that?
Yeah, I was like, maybe. Like, they do look like they've got great support, so they keep everything where it needs to be.
Yeah, I mean, you get basically it's like a belt essentially.
Yeah,
the waist,
yeah, it's like a belt with a
pouch,
wiener pouch. Yeah, yeah, like a really tightly wound banana hammock.
I don't know if this is. a brand new invention, but I heard of on another podcast they had an ad for some new underwear that has a wiener pouch.
I thought all underwear had a wiener pouch.
No, like a proper
like sculpted,
like a bag.
Like, put your wiener in the pouch, like it separates your nuts from the berry.
Wait,
your berry or your whatever.
So it's got like a tube.
Yeah, like a sock.
So like you put your wiener in a sock so that it doesn't touch your balls.
Yeah, I guess for like chafing or something. I don't know.
Whose wiener's chafing their balls?
I don't know. That's the
what are you like?
I heard about.
Like
I don't have them.
I get like here's the thing: my thighs chafe each other because I have big tree trunk legs, and anytime I take a step, I have to walk like I just got done riding a horse long distance. Because otherwise, my thighs rub together, and it's very unpleasant. That's why I have to buy like super compression boxer briefs for like long distance runners. I'm just like, well, I'm going to the supermarket. Let me put on my superhero suit because I can't take 4 steps without my thighs touching. It's very unpleasant, but it's never been a thing where it's like, oh, my balls are rubbing the skin off of my thighs. Like that's not the issue. Like my wiener is not like shredding my balls.
I don't know why they made it, but it's.
Do you know what it's called?
I don't. I forgot.
All right, 20-second brainstorm sesh. What's the name of this thing? Hot Pocket. How about a Hot Pocket? I don't know. Do you have anything?
Like something with like Long Johns, but like you know how like a Long John donut is cream filled, something to do with that.
I don't know anything about donuts.
Long John, it's like a long donut.
How about you just call it the Long Johns?
Okay,
that's all right. I still like Hot Pocket because it's like a little pocket for your wiener.
Pig in a blanket.
Oh, pig in a blanket.
Yeah,
that's a good one.
There we go.
How about the corn dog? I mean, because it's it's like covering you in breading. It's probably it. It's probably the peak of our ideas. I would love to find out what those are called. But yeah, so that is. Oh yeah. So anyway, just a quick aside. Japan has. We'll probably talk about Japan next week as well. I got tons of Japan stories leading up to me going back to Japan. Unless you request another topic, which I will gladly talk about. But I have a friend whose favorite hobby. I'm gonna call him Big D. That's his nickname. It's not because he has a big dick. It's like his name, his proper name starts with the letter D, and he's a very large guy. Like he's a bodybuilder, and he's also super tall. So he's just a massive human being. So we call him Big D. I call him Big D. And his favorite hobby is finding the grossest stuff on the internet, like porn related, and showing it to me for my reaction, because he finds like really, really gross stuff. And he's completely desensitized to all of it. And I'm desensitized to like violence and normal stuff, like normal sex stuff. But I'm not going to go into it in detail on this episode.
So he showed you like 2 girls, 1 cup kind of
stuff?
Oh,
yeah, that is nothing compared to the stuff that he normally
Tub
shows.
Girl.
Yeah, oh yeah, that's nothing. Like this guy he spends massive amounts of time on this. This is his hobby, is showing me this stuff. And every time he's like, "Hey man, I got this funny video. Maybe you'd like to check it out." I'm like I don't want to. I don't trust you. It's been a long time of this. And he's like, "No man, it's totally cool. Check it out." So he'll do this thing where he'll put like a few frames of a different video at the beginning of the video. And I'll be like, "Oh, what's this going to be like?"
It looks like a normal
thing. It looks like a normal thing. So I'm like, "Oh, cool." He's like, "Yeah, I saw this and I thought of you." So I'll watch it and be like, "Oh, okay. It's like what is this? Like two giant robots fighting? That's pretty cool. Oh God!" And then it just changes into a different thing. I'm like, "Ah, you got me again." So I was thinking, I was like, what can I get him from Japan that's like a cheap thing? Because like the other day, so I'm staying at a place. I have an ice cube tray. He'll come over every now and again, and we'll hang out, just shoot the breeze, and we'll have a drink, and we'll go to get ice cubes. I don't have an ice cube maker. I just have this tray. And this ice cube tray is from World War II. It's just jagged, sharp metal. We fill it up with water and freeze it.
That's the thing, you have to like pull like the little crank.
Yes, but there's no Craig thing. So you gotta like manually try to get it out. And it's so sharp that it like cuts your hands. So I'm like, well, this is fine, we'll just like leave it out for a few minutes and bang it on some stuff, and eventually we'll have ice. And he's like, it's not fine. I'm sick of bleeding every time I want ice. I'm gonna go buy you an ice tray. And I was like, oh, you don't have to do that. We have ice. Like, I've got some ice.
It's like 50 cents at the Dollar Tree.
Yeah, he was like, it's fine. I'll get you an ice tray. So I saw him like a month later. He's like, hey man, I got a present for you. I got you an ice tray. And I was like, oh, thanks man. You don't have to do that. Pulls it out. It's it is ice trays, but they're all in the shape of dicks.
Penises.
Yeah. Dicks and balls, penis balls. And he's like, yeah, I got you this ice tray. And I'm like, okay, well, this is the ice tray now. So every time he comes over, we just have like a big bowl of dicks that we that we eat our ice out of. So I was like, what can I get him that's cheap, that's not going to cost me anything, but like that's sort of on the same level? And then I remembered, so Japan, like sex is not taboo in Japan. They just consider it like a very natural thing because it is. And so there'd just be like porn around. And maybe in a future episode, we'll talk about one of the things I got him was the worst pornographic video I've ever seen. You'll have to... How far in are we? Almost 2 hours. Yeah, you'll have to remind me next time. We'll put it on the Post-it note, and I will tell the story of the worst pornographic video that I have seen. I found a physical copy of it, and I smuggled it into the country for him. Or we could talk about it after this, maybe, if you want, because it's not that long of a story. But we'll just put it on the docket, so Sound Guy Ben's writing it down right now. But anyway, they don't have Walmart in Japan, but they have a place that's similar to Walmart in sort of its quality. It's a higher quality, I don't know, like it's not really comparable to Walmart, I guess. It's just where you go in the middle of the night to get some random stuff. It's called Don Quixote.
Okay, it's not the one I've heard of. I think the place I've heard is more just like a Quickie Mart kind of place.
Oh, yeah. Well, they have like convenience stores everywhere. So they got Circle K, AM, PM, Family Mart.
Family Mart and AM, PM are the ones
Yeah. There's another one too. Oh, 7-Eleven. Yeah, so those are the four, I don't know how many I named, 4 or 5 major ones. But no, this is like a store. Like it's not a convenience store. It's like a shop. But they just have like floors and floors of just random weird stuff. Like, do you have any pillows shaped like a shrimp? They're like, yep, they're up here. Got a whole floor of that. He's like, great. And like, could I get a hat that looks like a bowl of ramen? They're like, yep, we've got that. And it's just weird stuff. And they're like, could I also get the newest PlayStation 4 release? Like, yep, it's up here. It's next to the lamps and the dildos. And you're like, awesome. And so you're just walking around.
Lamps, dildos, but not to be confused with dildo lamps. Those are on the next floor.
Those are on the next floor, yeah. The light-up dildos, the dildo lamps, and the regular lamps are real close together. Don't get mixed up. Lawsuits, not our problem. But, yeah, so they've got, like, you're walking around the store, you're like, oh, yeah, I'm looking for a watch. And you just, like, you just, next to the watches is, like, sex stuff, and you're just, like, looking at stuff. So you know how in different places they've got, like, you're like drawing a bath, you're like filling up a bathtub of water, and like typically women, I guess guys do it too, but usually women they'll put in like stuff into the bath, kind of like a bubble bath, but they'll put in like those like balls that like melt and like give it like an aroma, or that like imbue the water with essential oils, so they just kind of soak in like rose petal juice and stuff like that, so they have that, but it's a powder that you pour into the bath, and it turns all the water into the consistency of jizz, like a big bathtub full of semen. And I was like, yeah, and they show this lady on the cover just bathing in like a big bathtub of semen. And
viscous fluid.
So viscous. And like, I don't know what it smells like because I've never used it. But in my mind, it smells like jizz. So I'm getting him one of these. Like, I'm getting him because it comes in a big pouch. like a big metal pouch with, like, the picture on the front. I'm getting him that, and I'm very excited to give it to him because he doesn't know that I'm getting it for him.
Well, so before you do that, though, you should get 2.
Yeah.
And then you, like...
Test it out?
You test well. You just feel like just a big bucket.
Yeah.
Full of it.
And then leave it in his house.
And just, like, when he comes over, I just have it sitting out.
He'll be like, what? What is this? He'll be like, oh, I made that for you. That's for you. I was thinking of you earlier.
Working on that for a month.
Yeah. I've been working on this for you for a long time. This is your birthday and Christmas rolled into one. You are welcome, sir. But, yeah, I should do that too. Depending on how much they are. Hopefully they're very cheap. If they're cheap enough, I'll bring one on the show. We can test it live on the show. That'd be neat.
Yeah, there we go. We can just take
Yes.
the glass we drinking out of
Oh
here.
no, you've got a tub, right? Sound guy Ben, do you have a tub? You've got a tub, right? You've got a tub. All right. So if they're still selling this in a few weeks, when I go back, we're gonna get a big pouch of powdered semen, and I'm gonna fill your tub with jizz. And hopefully,
well,
I was gonna say hopefully
damage the pipes.
I was gonna say hopefully the tub clogs, so he's got to get the landlord out. So the landlord comes in and he's like, "What is this? What's going on here?"
I was just having a really wild weekend. All right.
Without a paper towel.
You know how it is. You know, you have a few friends over, and then all of a sudden this. The guy's just like, I don't. Or conversely, he might be like, yeah, I know exactly what you mean. And you're like, I would like to move. I don't.
I know, and he's just like, oh, okay.
I get it. Apparently, that is a real thing, though. Apparently, semen is like the worst thing to put in your drains because it's hydrophobic by nature.
Yeah.
So that it doesn't dissolve too fast inside of a person. So yeah, if you fill your drains with semen, apparently college campuses are constantly having sewage problems because everyone
jerking it in the shower.
Everyone's jerking it in the shower or having sex in the shower, but there's too much splooge in the drains, so you just need like industrial. Like, man, that must be the worst job to be like the plumber,
at the college.
The plumber on retainer at the college campus. It's probably just like, oh geez, that guy's looking for a new job every day. I'm sure that I hope that pay is great. But yeah, so there you go. So that's. Any questions about my story or Japan in general for this episode?
Not so much for this episode. That like I know we talked about Japan several times, a few different episodes, and talking about like just kind of things about living in Japan and some of the kind of idiosyncrasies of Japanese culture.
Yeah.
And also like subculture kind of stuff.
Oh yeah, there's tons of subculture. In fact, you might say that the whole of the society is just a bunch of subcultures kind of forming into one Voltron culture. But was that a question, or were you just stating that?
No, I'm just saying that no, I didn't have anything
okay.
specific to this episode.
Fair enough. Sound guy Ben, your friend is looking to move there. Is that right?
He's
thinking about it.
Interested in it.
He's interested in it.
I'm not sure how much or anything.
Okay, well, what city is he looking to go to? He's looking to go to Tokyo.
I believe so.
Because if you're looking to be in the heart of the action, Tokyo's where to go. If you're looking to save your money, worst place to go.
Anywhere other than Tokyo.
Anywhere other than Tokyo. That being said, there are still plenty of cheap digs to be had. But I have a feeling, and I can't confirm this firsthand at the moment, but those 2020 Olympics are coming up fast.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the Tokyo Olympics, and I have a feeling that everything is going to get exponentially more expensive.
Mm-hmm.
So if he's going to make that move, he might want to move soon and try to lock in a good rate. I can say that if you want to get your own solitary apartment, typically it's really expensive, and there's a ton of hoops to jump through because you can't have like impromptu roommates. Like, you can't just be like, oh yeah, I need to have these roommates or whatever. Like, it's not an option. There a lot of the companies. There's like a few companies that manage like all the apartments, and they all have very strict clauses. And pretty much everywhere in Japan, the walls have ears and eyes. So if someone else is living there, they're gonna know, and then you're gonna get thrown out. Not always, of course, but a lot of the times. So that's rough. Plus, you've got things like key money, which is like you're basically just paying a guy to consider renting you the apartment. It's not even like a guaranteed thing. It's just like, hey, for your consideration, here's some money. Sure would like to live here. And then, of course, you still have like your down payment or whatever, your security deposit, and then your monthly. And then I mentioned this earlier before we started recording. One street could make the difference of potentially $1,000 a month in rent. If the closer you are to a train station and the major train lines, the more expensive it is. But conversely, if you're willing to walk an extra street or an extra 2 blocks, you can get some good stuff. And depending on the arrangement, like if you're really dead set on getting your own apartment, it can be really expensive. But if you are cool with staying in a long-term guest house, it's much cheaper. And that sort of situation usually looks like you have your own room. It's usually like a big room. And and it's what it's yours, but you have a shared kitchen, and usually like a shared dormitory style shower. So it'll be like a big, not necessarily a big building, but a lot of times what they do is if it's an older neighborhood, they'll take the large traditional houses, like tatami floors and everything, and they're usually like quite large with a big courtyard, and usually they're not 2 stories, but every once in a while you get one that's 2 stories. But the older, larger houses, the historical houses, they will break them up into units, and so you have like a large room to yourself, but then like you'll have a shared living room, kitchen, shower. So you have a shared living room, kitchen, shower. So there might be like 3 showers, but there might be like 6 people in that compound, basically. And I've had my own apartment. I've lived in long-term guest houses. I actually prefer the long-term guest houses, and a lot of Japanese people live in the long-term guest houses too. Like, I thought it was just foreigners trying to save money, but the native Japanese people live in those things too. Like, the last one I stayed at was the last time I was in Japan. Stayed at one for about a month, maybe a little bit longer. And actually, I stayed at 2. I stayed at one that was a shithole, like an absolute shit pile. I don't know if we talked about it or not, but it was terrible. Just everything about it. The guy who ran it was actually like a slumlord, like a proper slumlord, like from comic books and movies. Almost like stole a bunch of my money and like got me arrested, and almost got me arrested. He didn't get me arrested, but he was trying. And he was also like super like senile. So like he was like a crime boss, like Al Capone, but he was like had big holes in his brain, like Al Capone. So
all that syphilis.
Yeah, it was all that syphilis, man. But we could get into that another time. But anyway, in my opinion, the long-term guest house in like a traditional house is the way to go, because like you get kind of that apartment vibe where you can be by yourself. It's kind of like a dorm. Like, you can be by yourself, but if you want, you can just go out into a common area and like mingle with people, and that's a good way to like, especially in Japan. Japan is all about building networks. You can't be solitary in Japan. Like, everyone in Japan is kind of alone, but they're alone in a big group of people. So like, you can't function without all those other people. So like, you need to know someone who knows someone. So it's a great thing if you're like, you get into one of those and there's already people that have been living there a while. So you can be like, hey, I need this. Who should I talk to? And they'll be like, I know a guy. And so by virtue of them knowing the guy, you know the guy. And so no one gets anything done unless somebody vouches for you. So you're just like, I need a mechanic that's not going to rip me off, for example. Although that wouldn't really be an issue in Japan typically, but like, just as an example, a more realistic example, you're like, so someone in my situation or whatever, or someone wants to study martial arts, so they couldn't just go to like one of the higher end like private schools. The teacher would need to, the person that wanted to get taught would need to know someone who knew the teacher. Any chain is fine, but there's got to be a chain, because it's got to be someone the teacher trusts. So they're like, okay, well, if you say this guy is fine, then I believe it, because I trust you. And if you trust this guy, then I trust this guy. And so further on down the line, so it's like, yeah, I know this guy, he's good, and then whoever I know says that I'm good, and then whoever he knows says that he's good, and then on up. So you need, it's like that for everything. So if you're looking for a job, like, that's the best way to get a job. A lot of times in Japan, unfortunately, it doesn't matter what you know. Like, you could have 1 million certifications and stuff, unless you've been specifically headhunted. If you're the one looking for a job, if they didn't find you, if you're looking for a job, you need to know somebody, or somebody who knows somebody, or you're not getting a job. You could be like the shiniest diamond, and it doesn't matter. Like, you need to know somebody. So that's a good way. So if you go to those like shared accommodations, like a long-term guest house or whatever, that's a pretty good way to go about it. Recommended. And, yeah.
Or if they got your friend has lots of money, just go through a real estate agent.
Yeah. Oh yeah, that's another one too. But you're gonna miss out on those connections.
Yeah.
So like, you'll be all by your onesies. You'll get a nice place, but you won't have any. You won't know anyone.
You can just live at the internet cafe.
Yeah, that is also a thing. But no one at the internet cafe wants to talk to you.
Yeah.
They're too busy playing competitive video games or showering
Like
or sleeping.
Well, yeah, well, because it's crazy that they have rooms.
Or reading massive amounts of manga.
Because I watched the documentary of people who basically were living.
Oh yeah, I stayed at one. I stayed at one for a while.
And yeah, and like so, like a lot of people were there like planning to be there just short term.
Yeah.
But some of the people was like, yeah, I've been here for 6 months.
Yeah, it's crazy because I mean, like the upper class ones, they have like beds and couches and rooms and showers, and they've got food and stuff to do. So if you've got the money, you can stay there as long as you want.
Yeah,
like
like the ones I was saying, like most of the rooms were basically just like, essentially just like an office cubicle size.
Yeah,
and like you had a computer in there.
Yeah, well, some of them have like couches and beds and stuff.
And yeah, like most of them, like some of them were like sleep on the floor. Others had like an actual bed.
Yeah, because you can a lot of.
I'm sure it varies by price. Obviously, like the ones with an actual bed are more expensive.
Definitely. Well, like I would go to the internet cafe sometimes and just use the internet, just the regular ass internet, for something like I think it was 2 or 3 hours for like $10. And that was just sitting in a chair in a public computer. So, like, I didn't have any sort of amenities. So, like, extrapolate that. You're probably looking at, like, $30 or $40 maybe. I don't know. But
Still, that's cheaper than a hotel.
Oh, by far.
Yeah.
That being said, there were a few times, like, I wound up showering there and stuff. And it's really, like, not bad at all. Like, cheaper by far than a hotel. But, you know, if you're getting, like, a long-term guest house or whatever, like, they can be really cheap and really good. Like, the last one I stayed at worked out to something like, I think it was $10 a day to live there for, like, a month. I mean, that's good. Especially, like, Tokyo prices.
Yeah.
Like, don't get me wrong, I was in a rural area. It was, like, a 35-minute train ride into town, like, into the city center. But, it's like a 35-minute train ride everywhere, so who cares? Like, this is pretty good. In fact, I'm probably gonna stay there again if they've got a room, and I'll have me and my friend stay there if their prices are still good. And the owner of the place really liked me because he again did the "you are more Japanese than Japanese" thing. When I don't think studying martial arts and having sweet red bean paste as my favorite food makes me more Japanese than a Japanese person. I think it's just two very stereotypically Japanese things. Like, I'm not like wearing a kimono everywhere, and I don't know what else. What's another Japanese stereotype? Like,
have like the Edo area haircut.
Yeah. I don't have a top knot.
Pate.
I don't have a top knot and all that. Like, I'm not more Japanese than Japanese. I'm like, oh yeah, I'm more Japanese than Japanese. I work myself until I die a very early miserable death. Just kill myself all the time.
Yeah.
And then what else? I absorb myself completely into my schoolwork to the point where everything becomes miserable. Then I
also look great in a schoolgirl uniform.
Yeah, I look great in a schoolgirl uniform. And then I drink until I lose consciousness every night. Sleep on the road. I'm very Japanese.
And just have a very ingrained sense of self-shame.
That's right. Yeah. I'm just embarrassed all the time. I'm very Japanese. Like, I'm not really Japanese. I just really happen to like sweet red bean paste. It's my favorite food. And I study martial arts. Like, and I speak Japanese. Like, that's not. It's like, yeah, I'm more Japanese than Japanese. I'm like, maybe, like, not modern day, like, high schoolers in the city.
Maybe as a caricature.
Modern day high schoolers in downtown Tokyo are probably more American than I am, to be fair. They love baseball. They love fast food. McDonald's and stuff. Like, they're way more American than I am, typically.
I know baseball's like a huge thing in Japan.
It's a big thing. Yeah, baseball and McDonald's and what else? I mean, like jeans, but I pretty much never take my jeans off unless it's to have no pants or martial arts clothes.
Jeans are kind of a thing.
They're everywhere
almost
now.
Everywhere.
Yeah, they can't even really be the dominion of America anymore. What else is like a stereotype that Americans... Baseball caps? I don't know. I guess basketball
apple
and like
pie.
Apple pie. I don't know.
Entrepreneurial stuff, which I know is like apparently not looked upon very well in Japan. You're not supposed to be an entrepreneur.
You're not typically. Yeah. You gotta speak up, sound guy Ben. No one can hear you.
Well, I figured nobody can hear me regardless. So.
Wow.
Ah!
I'll do the very Japanese thing which is to show you that I am listening, I'm going to repeat the thing that you just said,
you do that usually.
but in a question. So I'll be like, not being very entrepreneurial is Japanese.
Wait, what?
Question mark. Because you were like, they're discouraged from being entrepreneurial. So not being entrepreneurial is Japanese.
Is a Japanese.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's the Metal Gearism. What? I don't know if you ever, Metal Gear, right?
Yeah.
It's like every
repeat back every statement as a question
to show that you're listening.
Yeah.
Repeat back every statement as a question.
Repeat back every statement as a question.
Yes, to show that you're listening.
Yeah.
To show that you're listening.
I've heard of it. Yes.
You've heard of it?
Metal Gear. Yeah. I was questioning. That was questioning me. Yeah. So that's it. So that's what the hell were we talking about? Yeah. Anyway, Japanese stuff. That's what we were talking about. I'm not Japanese at all, and just happen to really like sweet red bean paste a lot. And mochi. Oh man,
mochi's good.
The New Year's mochi though, that you get in like hard cubes, and you got to heat them up and then like chewing it. It's just an endeavor. And then if you're able to choke it down, it's like its own reward. And it kills so many old people every year.
Like choke on it? Or?
Yeah, they choke and die because they're, it's so delicious, but it's too much of an effort to eat. They don't have the physicality to do it anymore, but they can't resist doing it. So
they can't chew it properly, and they just try to swallow the whole thing, and it just gets lodged in their throat.
Yeah, and it solidifies into a very thick mass, and it's so delicious. Yeah, I love that thick, hard New Year's cubed mochi. I eat it as often as I can. Each block is like an entire bowl's worth of rice condensed down into a block. And there was one time I was at that guest house, and I showed up with like a bag of, it was like chicken, it was chicken skewers, that I bought from a street vendor. It was chicken skewers, then like a big thing of sweet red bean paste, and then a whole bag of those mochi cubes, and I ate them all in one sitting. Like that was my lunch. And like the property manager of the guest house walked by, and she's like, "Did you just eat all that?" And I was like, "Yeah, it was super good." And she was like,
"Yeah, mochi's like super dense."
Yeah, she was like, "That was like 20 bowls of rice." And I was like, "Yep, pretty good." Like, I definitely just ate an entire army's worth of food. You're welcome. But yeah, each cube is like a whole bowl of rice, and I ate like 20 cubes plus the chicken skewers plus the sweet red bean paste. It was just like, oh my god!
So imagine it all just kind of like started like, getting rehydrated in your stomach. Thing. I'm just imagine, like, if I did, like, I would imagine I would just be like laying in the bed, like, just in agony.
Nope, the inside of my stomach is like a collapsing star. Like everything that enters there is just crushed down into nothingness. So
it's the same caloric count and everything.
Yeah,
it's like,
yeah.
Can you get those here?
They're great.
Like, do you just get them at like the Asian aisle of like a Walmart or something?
I don't think.
I know the only place I've found them is like at Saraga.
Oh, they've got them at Saraga?
Yeah.
They've got two places in Castleton.
Like the one over on specifically the one on the south side on Madison Avenue.
Right.
I don't know about the one. I think there's another one up on the north side, like 96th Street.
Yeah, well, they've got one on 82nd Street next to the Buffalo Wild Wings.
Right,
it's called One World Market, and it is so Japanese. It's a very Japanese store run by Japanese people. Full of Japanese people eating sushi and stuff there every day. I don't know where they come from or where they go. Like, they're all Japanese businessmen that just, like, materialize there.
There's a place on...
and then they, like, disperse into the
atmosphere. Where I used to work out on the south side, there was a...
Because I've never seen a Japanese person here in the wild, ever.
It's just called, like, I think it's just called, like, Egg Roll King or something.
Yeah?
But it's ran by a Vietnamese couple.
Yeah?
And they make, like... authentic, really good Vietnamese food.
Yeah.
And they have like these crazy lunch specials, and every day it's just full of Vietnamese people.
Yeah, and you never see them in the wild.
Grove. And it's like, where are you coming from?
Yeah, there are so many, like, I'm telling you, straight out of Tokyo. Like, straight out of, like if you just, like, squinted your eyes, like, it sounds and looks and smells like you're in Japan. And I don't know where all these people are coming from or where they're going. Everyone's speaking Japanese. Like, it's weird. And then it's just like Like lunch is over and they're gone. Like why are they here? Where'd they come from? Where are they going? Like it's weird.
Where does anybody go?
Where does anyone go? Where do we come from? Does the place exist? Do you exist? Is there existence?
Is there a place?
But
maybe.
I will say that place has fantastic cubed mochi, and you can get it in two.
Mochi.
No, it's mochi, Mochi. But there's more than one kind. Okay. So there's like.
Can you get like flavored kinds?
Yeah.
Does it taste good, or does it just taste like white rice?
It tastes amazing. So the soft mochi, that's not the kind I'm talking about.
So that's the kind I've had.
Comes in all the flavors, and it's good, but it's not. You like okay, so to make mochi, you take rice, like traditionally. This is the old style. You take a bunch of sticky sweet rice, and you put it in like a hollowed out stump, and then you have two guys with huge hammers like smelt it like it was like they're forging an old weapon, and they beat it down.
Just keep compressing it down, and
they just keep hitting it
down.
And then they keep adding rice and folding it, and it becomes like a dough consistency. So that's your softer mochi that you usually get in balls filled with stuff like sweet red bean paste, and it's pretty good. And they flavor that, and it's good. But if you keep condensing it down further and further and further, you can get like this much rice smashed down into a space like this big, and it's hard as a brick. And then
how do you eat it?
You heat it. You heat it up, and it becomes soft and gooey.
Okay.
And then you eat it. Yeah, so good.
That's rad, dude.
Yeah, you're supposed to put it in the oven, but I can't wait that long, so I usually just put it in the microwave.
Okay.
Do you have a microwave?
No, but I could use one.
Do you have an oven?
Yeah. I mean, I'd rather not wait. I mean, I'd just probably go use one.
Do you have one here?
No.
What do you mean use one?
Well, I mean, I know. I have a network.
You have a network. Okay, well, I'm talking about like if you got mochi, I want mochi.
Okay.
I'm thinking
about getting them.
Okay,
that
well.
Sounds good.
All right, so they got two sized bags.
Okay.
You got your 500-gram bags when you're like, hey, I want to spend way too much money for not enough stuff. And then you got your 1,000-gram like kilo bags for when you want to get your money's worth and I'm coming over. So get that one.
It's like buying regular rice. If you buy a 1-pound bag of rice, you're wasting your money.
Yeah.
You buy a 20-pound bag of rice.
Shakes out.
Then you're getting your money's worth.
Yeah, shakes out.
So it's like probably like a wee more expensive than rice, or is it like 10 times more expensive than rice?
The kilo bag is like $10.
But that's like 2 pounds of rice.
Yeah, 2.2 pounds.
So that's like, I mean, if you just ate rice, that's like more than. That's a lot of rice. I don't know how much rice.
You're like, look, I don't deal in rice, okay? I don't know how much rice is worth.
If you're buying a bulk, if you buy a 20-pound bag of rice, you can buy that for like $25.
What time is it right now? Okay, everything's closed right now. I was about to say field trip. Let's go right now. It's everything's closed. I'm so psyched to have this. I want to go right now, but we can't because everything's closed. But yeah. Mochi. So we'll when this episode is over, we'll Google it. I'll show you what package you're looking for.
Okay.
So there's two places that have the mochi. One World Market is your best bet. That's the Japanese place. There's a Chinese place right next door called Asia Mart. They don't have as good a selection. They have all your soft mochis, but they don't have a lot of your hard, need to heat them up mochis.
Is this? Well, maybe I should wait until we're done to ask, because I don't know if I want to.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Better not. All right. So anyway, any more questions, including related to mochi, or food of any kind, Japan in general, my legendary status in the country?
My question is that when you come back again from going again, will you bring me a waifu?
A waifu. Japanese ladies. Pros and cons with the Japanese ladies.
I only see pros.
They're super. Man, how to say it? Like, they're both very tolerant, and I was gonna say intolerant, but maybe controlling is a better word. Like, here's the thing, like, with my current lifestyle, a Japanese woman might be the only, like, general, because you're always gonna get outliers everywhere, but, like, as a general group, like, stereotypically, a Japanese girl might be the only one to put up with me, like, in the long term. Like, to be in, like, a serious relationship, and to have it be declared on both sides that we're in a serious relationship. And then I'll be like, well, I'm going to be gone for a year hunting this dragon in Antarctica. And she'd be like, okay, that's fine. Like, that's a Japanese girl. So, but by the same token, if you're around and you'd be like in the culture, they typically control all matters of finance and, like, home stuff. So you're like, I think we should like get a new tree or like a TV or a whatever. And then you basically have to go to your girl and ask permission because she controls all that stuff, and you probably get denied. So it all depends, you know? You'd be like, I'm going out drinking with the fellas. Who knows when I'm coming back? And she'd be like, have fun.
That sounds great for me because I honestly, like, I always forget to, like, I know that I have to pay shit.
Right.
But, like,
You know what? A Japanese girl would be perfect for you. Because you can't take care of yourself on a financial level.
No, I mean, I have the money for it always.
Right, but you can't
like,
keep it all straight.
I'll, like, log in and I'll be like, I got 8 days. Why would I pay it now?
Yeah, that's...
And then I forget about it.
You
I'm
need...
like, fuck, I forget now. It's 9 days.
Yeah, Japanese... That's the perfect thing. Japanese girl, you're like, here's all my money.
You just make sure everything's taken care of.
Make sure everything's taken care of. Yeah, that's... You, sir, need a Japanese
Or you
girl.
just sign up for autopay.
No.
Like everything that's what I do.
No, because I don't trust that. What if I don't have the money that time and they take it out and then I
That happens.
That's why you just make sure you always have
That
the money.
happens. That's why you just get a Japanese girl.
But okay, what if I can't have the money that time and I'm like, I'm willing to go over on this because I know that, like, okay, they might shut my lights off, but, like, I can choose not to have a phone.
Right.
You know?
Yeah.
Like, I can choose which one I want to do if I don't have the money.
Exactly. Yeah, Japanese girl all the way.
So I would just make sure I make enough money that I always have enough money to have all the things.
Some of us just don't have the option to make enough money to have all the things. We gotta pick and choose.
Basically, I budget. I get a job. It's like, this is how much money I have coming in, and I'm like, all right, I gotta pay this for rent, and I need electricity, and so basically I budget out my necessities.
Right.
And then figure out, okay, how much extra I have left over on things I can, don't need.
Well, see, here's the thing. You're a functional, independent adult.
You have the knowledge of a Japanese waifu.
Yeah. And Ben needs a bookkeeper that he can sleep with.
Yeah.
And here's... But...
Because all I look at it is like, okay, here's how much I bring in per month. Here's how much I spend per month. Is it balancing out?
Here's the thing. I don't like...
And always leave myself a cushion, so I'm not, like, completely broke all the time.
I don't like the trade-off. See, I can't have a Japanese girl, because to have a Japanese girl, you have to have the money to retain your bookkeeper.
Right.
And I don't
Oh,
have that.
more than that.
You have to have enough money for them to manage your money. She'll be
if there's nothing to manage, like, why am I here?
Yeah, she'll be like, so I was thinking about getting anything that is going to result in a bill, and I'll be like, oh, we can't have that. We can't have any bills. She'll be like, but, like, power and phones and water and stuff? And I'm like, yeah, we can put those in your name. I got lots of things out hunting me, so probably not that. And then she'll be like, okay, when's more money coming in? I'd be like, it's question marks all around.
It's like, well, for what we got a well.
Yeah. I'll be like, water comes from the sky. I'm not paying for water.
So, I got a water barrel and a well. I'm set.
Yeah.
For power, we use candles at night.
Yeah. What'd I buy all those life straws for if we're not going to drink out of puddles?
We don't need heat. We got lots of blankets.
Yeah. She'll be like,
the house is insulated.
She'll be like, so here's the thing. I want to do anything. And I'll be like, go on. She's like, yeah, that costs money. I'm like, yeah, I can't do it. Can't do that. I'm like, okay, all right, I'm following you. How are we going to sneak into this place to do this thing? And she'll be like, this is way too much work. So yeah, I can't have a bookkeeper on retainer that I can sleep with. I could just go sleep with a woman, but she's not going to balance my money because I don't have any. And so on the one hand, only a Japanese woman would tolerate my lifestyle choices and like my existence, but also I don't have enough coming in to keep them around, which is fair. That's totally fair. In a world where I have money already and don't need any more, Japanese girl's probably the way to go. So you've got a job, and you're terrible with money. So yeah, Japanese girl, all the way. Like stereotypically, there's no situation that they're just like, oh yeah, this isn't like enough. Like they could move in here and they'd be like, this is fine. We'll work with this. So yeah,
Bring it back.
yeah. Well, that's the thing. Is like I would have to like.
Put her in a crate.
Yeah, it's so expensive. You'd be better off moving over there. That's how you get them. Yeah. But then you're right back where your buddy is. You know, trying to get that network in and like living in guest houses and everything's expensive and you hate walking around. It's not the best environment for you. Yeah.
Alternatively, you could live in the Philippines, which is much cheaper.
It's true. We could live in Thailand. It's crazy cheap.
Thailand, yeah, much cheaper, and you're just a short like boat ride or plane trip to Japan.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Well, because Thailand, I might just. Oh my God! Was that a penis?
Well, yeah. I mean, if you're in Bangkok, yeah.
I mean, yeah. Each place has its foibles. You might get.
That's right. Yeah, you're definitely gonna find a woman with a huge penis in Bangkok. Just don't be in Bangkok. Just if you see a beautiful Thai woman in Bangkok, it's 100% a dude. Just know that. There's beautiful Thai women, but they're not in Bangkok. Those are all dudes, and that's fine. Just know what you're getting into. I've got some stories about that, but that'll be for another episode. So it's about almost 2.5 hours in, so I think I'm gonna call it an episode. Any final comments?
Oh, I'm interested in hearing about the lady boys.
Oh yeah, good times. Good times.
But that's a tale for another time.
That is a tale for another time. All right, well, this has been the National Pastime. I'm Nash.
I'm Aaron.
Panache! Nash out.
Nash!